Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown. Am I get my voice back? I'm going to be talking about the 2006 disappearance of Jennifer Kesse. It is one of those mystery crimes like Jody Huisentruit, who went missing many years ago as well. She was a news commentator, the morning anchor, and actually, Jody's a little bit easier actually than Jennifer's case, and I'm going to tell you why. And Jody Huisentruit, she was kidnapped out of the parking lot, clearly by somebody, put in their vehicle and driven away. Body never been found. But in this case, her actual vehicle was taken, so we don't have another vehicle to look for because her vehicle was found, but she wasn't. So it's a very unique case, and it has been so many years, and the family's gone through so much. And at this point, they keep hoping somebody knows something. And I always caution people about this because I hear this on every single media channel. Somebody, an FBI guy, the police, the chief, whoever. Somebody knows something. Well, yeah, the dude who took her. It doesn't mean he went around town blabbing. It doesn't mean he went home and said, oh, guess what I did today? I'm so annoyed by always this concept. Somebody knows something. A lot of people take their secrets to the grave, especially people who are serial killers, which this guy probably is. All right. Well, I'm going to get into the case now. I've got some views on this case, which I just don't think have been investigated enough. And I will say this. I know they're still, they've got a PI on this case, and I'm not saying he's doing a bad job. I just hope he's not charging them like $50, $100 an hour, the family. The family now has actually the police records. A lot of this stuff is redacted, but they've actually paid a flaming fortune to get them. And I'm going to get into how that is so unusual that they even got the police files. But this is one of these cases where if I could only see the police files and the interviews, I would be ecstatic. So to the family of Jennifer Kesse, I don't do much pro bono work anymore. I used to do tons of pro bono work. It's a good way to be poor. But every once in a while, there's a case that sticks in my head. And this is one of them. The other day, I was, looking through all my research, and I was putting in different things. And this one thing showed up, and it talked about this person who said this certain thing on a news channel. And they didn't say who it was. And I'm like, I kind of like what that person said. It was me. I didn't know it was me. And then I found out it was me. I always love the fact that I like what I say. Okay, I'm just joking. Okay, before we get to this case, before people say, my God, you should start it at minute 20, because Pat Brown never gets to this case quick enough. I do want to say hello to all my wonderful friends in the chat room, because this is important. Why is this important? I'm going to tell you why. Because this channel needs to be supported. I'm just going to say that. I do very long videos on my case files. They're 2 to 3 hours. I don't plan that. I just obviously can't shut up. But I like to teach, and I like people to understand why I come to my conclusions. Because if I do a 15-minute video and I say, oh, I think this is what happened to Jennifer Kesse, this is my opinion, so what? Really? Quite frankly, no profiler, no detective, no whatever person. Opinion is worth anything unless I can explain it. And it's worth nothing in the long run if you can't understand how they think and how they came to conclusions. That's what helps us in our lives, our own lives, even if we're not involved in homicides. How do you come to conclusions? How do you think through things? So this is an educational channel, not a crime-solving channel, an educational channel, where I, as like a professor at a university, would go through a class. Some people like it. Some people like, shut up, Pat. But anyway. Sorry. Some things I find funny. Anyway, if you look below in the link, there's a link to Patreon. Patreon, if you $5 a month. Seriously, you can't even buy a Starbucks coffee, and you should never buy a Starbucks coffee because they suck. But okay, that's just an opinion, and I'm not even going to get into the reasons why. You can go to the link below. You can join Patreon, $5 a month. You can come to 8 live shows a month. There are 2 every week. There is the Hangout once a week, which is all the different news and people asking me, can you talk about this case? I do that. And then on the weekends, I do a case show, which is one specific case show, which I feel deserves more attention than 5 or 10 minutes. I want to do 2 and sometimes longer hours about that case. And so please all send in your suggestions. I don't care if you're patrons or subscribers to the channel. Send in your ideas. And if I don't respond, send them in like 10 more times because sometimes that's what it takes. Because I'm fascinated with many cases, but I can't get to all of them right away. All right, so $5 a month, you support an educational channel. Someone who's not just doing a 15-minute show, has 1 million subscribers, 2 million subscribers, and makes a fortune and lives in the Bahamas. This is a channel that is a small channel, and I'm okay that way. I just want to keep it going. That's all. Okay, join that. Okay, you don't want to join that? Go over to this. Just subscribe. The algorithms of YouTube are things we don't understand. But if you subscribe, it does help the channel. And also, it's good for you. You can like the video. You can click the bell for notifications. And you can put into the YouTube search Profiler Pat Brown and any case you're interested in and find out if I've done it. You can also go to my playlist and find out if I've done the case you're interested in. It costs you 0 money. And it still helps me. So I'm good with that. Other ways, there's a super thanks below. Also my books below. This is a wonderful fiction book, which is really cheap, and it's on Amazon, and the link is below, and it's a beautiful story, and people really like it. So it's my first fiction, and I will do some more, but I love this story. I do. Okay. People are like, okay, that's it. Okay, I'm getting to the show now. So whoever is out there is going to say you can start the show at whatever minute. Go for it. I want to say hello to the people in the chat room. Hello, Sarah. Sarah's here. Texas Redhead is here. Clarissa is here. Eriberry is here. Samina is here. Hope you get to 2 million. You know, lucky for me, I'm 68 going on 69. I don't really give a crap about making a ton of money. I don't. I'm good. I'm good. I don't have a ton of money. I'm just a very simple person. I live simply. And so I don't need that. It does help to have enough to survive. And my mother lived till 90, so it would help if, since I'm 68, that I have enough money to live till 90. My mother had my father, and he had a lot of money. Anyway, okay. Anyway, Kurtz is here. Harper's here. Michaela is here. Wendy is here. Lisa S is here. Let's see who else is. Penelope is here. Sheila is here. Wendy and the Sun is here. Oh my God, we got so many great people. Kalisha is here. And I'm going to miss somebody, and then you're going to hate me. Emily is here. Beverly is here. Molly is here. CO is here. Hey, Pat. Hey, CO. Criminal offender? I don't know what you are. Okay. I'm just messing with you. Beverly, did I already say your name? Okay. Anne Marie is here. Lots of people are here. Aisha's here. Aisha's here. Aisha. I always mess up your name. I don't know why. Aisha. I just never know which language I should be working in. Aisha says something interesting. Aisha Patel. People on the internet are mean to and about everyone and everything else besides criminal and wastrels. Okay, I just have to comment here, Aisha. Nobody understands what the word wastrels is unless you understand India. And India, the way people say things in India, wastrels are people who are useless pieces of crap. In case you don't know, I've known a bunch of wastrels in my life. Absolutely. Jiha. Anyway, because I've been to India, so I totally into that. But anyway, okay, whoever else is here, welcome. And I'm sorry I didn't even pay attention to you because I've run out of time and people are going to get annoyed. All right, so let's go to the show. I'm in a mood today. I don't know why I'm in a mood today. I am in a mood. Um, it's because some people are like, a lot of people don't understand. What? Hold on a second. Hold on a second. This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Okay. So, okay. Whew. Sorry. I have problems with pictures. I thought my pictures had vanished. All right. Now, for all of you who are still here, who are my patrons and who are people who like to learn, as opposed to people like, can you get it over with in 10 minutes? No, because it serves no purpose. But let's get to the case. Okay. I like to have a good time. I'm sorry, folks. I mean, people say, "Why do you laugh in so many of your videos?" I'm like, I've been a criminal profiler for years. I deal with a lot of negative things. I deal with very sad things all the time. I also worked in hospitals for years, and I've dealt with people dying and children losing their parents, and there's a whole lot of bad things. And it's not that I'm laughing over the disappearance of Jennifer Kesse. It's that I don't know. I just have to have a little bit of humor in my life and on my channel, or I simply can't sit here and be dismal every day. But I still can give information, and I think good analysis that will help. So you like my personality or you don't. But let's go to Jennifer Kesse. Okay. I'm sorry. It's one of those days. All right. I got to stop laughing. There's nothing worse than laughing when you're doing, on national television, which I've had an issue with once before when somebody called me profiler crap brown. I was on MSNBC. And at the end, she said, "Thank you, criminal profiler crap brown." And I'm like, "Thank you." And then I was killing myself not to laugh to go back to the show. And I don't know what was going on at her end. And she obviously conflated criminal profiler Pat Brown, although my haters will say she was correct. Anyway, let's get to it. It is believed Jennifer left work between 7:30. Okay, so her disappearance happened on this particular day. And this is important right here already. When you're looking at evidence, so many people jump over stuff. She disappeared on January 24th, 2006 in Orlando, Florida. And they said it is believed, and I want to put quotes right away. It is believed that Jennifer left her home between 7:30 and 8 a.m. to go to her job, which was not terribly far away, on the morning of January 24th, 2006. All right, I want to stop right here. When you're looking at cases, what is believed and what is true are two different things. What is believed is people's guesswork. Now, I have checked out my own phone because my sister actually lives in Orlando, and it is actually January. So I checked when is sunrise. This is very important because I want to know how dark where she's living if she walked out of her home at what they say 7:30 to 8. How dark was it? If it's bright sunlight and, it's a daytime abduction, if that were true. However, a sunrise is actually about 7:15 in Orlando, Florida in January on the date of 24th. Now, also understand what sunrise is. It has a problem the same as sunset. Sunrise is when the sun starts going, doesn't mean you can see it a lot, okay? Sunrise becomes brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter as time goes on. Similarly, with sunset, you have these different times where the sun is starting to set, and then you have what's called sunset. But you have these different divisions. I once did not know that, but I learned that through my studies. So, first of all, we do not know, and this is very important, whether she walked out of, if she disappeared on the morning of January 24th on the way to work, whether it was pretty dark outside, just getting to be dawn and kind of very dark outside, or it was getting lighter outside. People actually don't know when she left her apartment. And again, 7:30 to 8 a.m. That's the guess. Now, let me talk about guesses. Let's say a lot of times I leave between 7:30 and 8 a.m. Why is that? Well, because I'm rushing off to work. Or is it because I want to stop at 7-Eleven or Dunkin' Donuts and get a coffee? If I go to 7-Eleven, I need 5 minutes. If I go to Dunkin' Donuts, I need about 15 in my neighborhood because, my God, that's the slowest line ever. I might not leave at, 7:30. I might leave at 7:15 when sunrise is just starting to happen. So the first most important clue here is we do not know if I'm going to get into whether she was abducted the night before or the night of. When she left or was forced to leave her apartment. If it was the morning, was it quite dark outside or was it not? I think it was likely fairly dark because one of the problems we have with people who are abducted out of parking lots outside of their own condos, apartments, vacation flats, whatever, is that people don't tend to like to abduct people in broad daylight. They don't, because it sucks. Because everybody else is leaving for work too, and they're like, "What's that dude doing over there? Oh my God, he's abducting a woman." You don't really want that to happen. So usually the reason you can do it is because it's quite dark. The person gets toward their car, and you're like, and then you grab them. You either grab them and put them in your own vehicle, which was a Jody Huisentruit thing, or could somebody have simply put a gun to her head or whatever, knife to her throat, and said, "I'm here," and force her into the vehicle? Could they have hit her over the head and put her in unconscious? I don't know. So we do not know exactly when she was abducted. And I'm going to get to all the different theories in a bit. And one of the things I want to point out, because it's very important, is that I have not seen the police files. Gosh, I wish I could. And again, I will open this up to the Kesse family. I don't usually do stuff for pro bono, but my sister lives in Orlando. If it's winter and you want me to come to Orlando and look at the files for zero money, I get to see my sister and help you out. Just saying. I will do that. Now, if you're in Ohio in the winter, sorry, Annie Haley. I've had enough Ohio cases that I don't want to go to working in the winter. All right. But Orlando, it's not as warm as I'd like it to be, but it's good enough. All right. So I would come because I hang out with my sister and check out the files, and I'm willing to do that for free. I'm just putting that out there. All right. So one of the theories is that she left her house between 7:30 and 8 a.m. in the morning. Now, let me read you a little more. All right. However, and I'm reading this from, by the way, not from Wikipedia this time. I'm reading this from storiesoftheunsolved.com. The person who wrote this was somebody who has no name. I have no idea why. The reason I'm reading this one is because there's a lot more information, and I want to get into the different details. All right. So she left theoretically, and I say this because a lot of people think she was actually kidnapped on the day before, and I'm going to get into why. I mean, the night before, that she never actually left the house to go to work in the morning. And I will crush this, believe me. So anyway, so it is believed Jennifer left for work between 7:30 and 8 a.m. on the morning of January 24th, 2006. And also remember 2006, this is going to be important. However, she never arrived nor made her usual phone call to her boyfriend. Rob, that's her boyfriend. Let me see if I can find Rob here. Look at my little pictures that I sometimes misplace things. Okay, Rob is here. That's her boyfriend. And these are some other suspect. Rob was a suspect, but really, quite frankly, he lived completely so far away. He had nothing to do with it. Okay, he did not. So, but she had been hanging out with Rob at his place and driven home. So what about Rob? Rob tried calling Jennifer's cell phone while he was on his way to work between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. but each went to voicemail. He assumed she was in a meeting, didn't want to worry too much, but his subsequent calls that morning went directly to voicemail. A lot of people always said, well, she didn't answer right away. Why wasn't she totally panicked? Come on now. This is where people start diving in on somebody and saying that because they didn't react immediately and go crazy and go to the police, that they must be suspects. Things don't work like that. I mean, people don't necessarily think, for example, and people sometimes say, why do you give examples of your own life, Pat? Well, because I have them, and I can help you understand how things work. Again, so I have had my vehicle parked outside of my house, which is right next to my daughter, for a couple of days, and I haven't left. And I'm thinking to myself, my car's been out there. I've never left for 2 days. I could be dead in here. Why doesn't my daughter care? But, my daughter's like, finally, she might eventually, after the third day, go, Ma, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, thanks for checking in. But that's, people are busy with their own lives, and they unless something really strikes them as unusual, they may not jump to conclusions, shall we say. The one time my daughter did get really upset was that there was a snowstorm. And then my daughter went to work, and she's a police detective, and she went to work. And when she was coming, I don't know, she's going there or back, she saw my car, my little red Mazda Miata, alone, sitting in a Dunkin' Donuts near the house, quite near the house, in a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot at 4 a.m, just sitting there. And my daughter, the detective, said, "Oh my God, what happened to my mother? Has she been kidnapped? What the heck is her car doing in the middle of a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot at 4 a.m. in a snowstorm?" She did freak. I don't know if she called to text me, but she's young. She probably texted me, "Mom, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm over at the hospital," because I used to work as a sign language interpreter, and I did emergency stuff. She goes, "Why the heck is your car in the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's because they were going to send me a limo to take me in because of they were actually sending me like a vehicle that would bring me into the hospital because it was impossible to drive. And I know they can't find my house or get up the driveway. So I managed to get down I said, "Look, meet me at Dunkin' Donuts." So I parked there. They picked me up, took me in, and that was what happened. But because I hadn't informed my daughter, she freaked out. But that was because it was so unique. She's driving home, and what is Ma's car doing in the parking lot of Dunkin' Donuts at 4 a.m. by itself? She freaked. But she didn't freak if my car's in front of my house for 2 days and I'm lying dead on the floor. I'm just pointing out, for the sake of the boyfriend, stop jumping to conclusions. All right. So anyway, he tried calling Jennifer's cell phone while on his way to work between 8 and 9 p.m., but each went to voicemail. He assumed she was in a meeting, which is perfectly reasonable. Even though they did chat regularly, it doesn't mean that because she didn't pick up one time, that she's, you're not going to jump to, "Oh my God, she must have been kidnapped." All right. He didn't worry too much, but his subsequent calls that morning also went directly to voicemail. Now he's getting a little concerned. Alarmed that she hadn't shown up at work, Jennifer's employer contacted her parents, because now the employer did know she should be at work and she was not. They contacted her parents around 10 a.m. Drew and Joyce's attempts. Drew and Joyce, let me show you a picture of the family. Hold on a sec. Where's my family pictures? Okay, this is their family. On the left is Jennifer, and that's her brother next to her, and then her mom and her dad. Okay, just to let you know, Jennifer, Logan, Joyce, and Drew. So now they've called the family, and Drew, which is her father, and Joyce, which is her mother, attempt to contact their daughter. And they had the same result as Rob, and calls to Rob and Logan showed that they had no idea of her whereabouts. They contacted hospitals and jails and called Jennifer's building manager to check on her condo. He reported that everything appeared normal and that her car was not in the parking lot. Okay, so clearly her car had been removed from the parking lot at some point. Jennifer's parents and her brother made the 2-hour drive from Bradenton, Florida to Jennifer's condo, arriving between 3 p.m. and 3:15 p.m. While her suitcase had been left unpacked. So she had been with her boyfriend at another location, driven all the way back. Her suitcase was there. She had, and people say her boyfriend has something to do with this. Ridiculous. Okay. I'm going to knock down a lot of suspects because people just jump and, oh, this guy did it. No, he didn't. Boyfriend's innocent. Okay. She came home, put the suitcase in the house. They found it there. There were signs she had gotten ready for work that morning as the shower and towels were still wet. Clothes were laid out on the bed, and hair and makeup were bad writing here. Okay, hair and makeup products were strewn across the bathroom counter. The only items missing were her purse, her iPod, her briefcase, her keys, and her car, which was a black 4-door 2004 Chevy Malibu. Okay. I want to knock down right away the concept that this crime, which is clearly a crime, she was abducted, did not happen at night. Some people believe, and they come up with very, very fanciful theories about how she arrived home from seeing her boyfriend. He was away, she had a long drive home. I lived in another town, long drive home. And then she gets home, she takes a shower, and then somehow she's abducted from the apartment. There's some theories that her brother had been staying there with a friend, and the friend had left a cell phone. And oh my God, Jennifer must have looked at the cell phone and realized he was involved in what? Child pornography or something. Well, first of all, it's a freaking flip phone. We weren't even to the days of smartphones. So it's a freaking flip phone. Not much. I've taken a few pictures on those flip phones, and they're pretty crappy because they're like this big. So, first of all, does she care who the heck her brother's friend is? No, she gets home. She drives home. It's a long drive. I think it was like a really long drive. I forgot how many hours. He's so far away. She drives home. She sees her boyfriend on weekends. So now she drives all the way home. She's got to be up for work. So she gets there and she goes, oh, her brother says, oh, by the way, my friend who was staying with me left his phone. Can you mail it to him? She's like, okay. Let me check out to see if he's got child porn. And come on now. She could give a crap about her brother's friend who she didn't know who he is. You know what I mean? She doesn't care. When she has time, maybe the next day after work, she will send the phone. It did. Now people go, oh my God, but the phone disappeared. One of the things I try not to do is go with gossip on the internet. I don't have the police files. They say the phone, the brother's friend's phone wasn't in the condo. Therefore, the brother's friend came down from wherever the heck he was because he was trying to prevent Jennifer from seeing what was on his phone and reporting him to the police. So he came in and that's just nonsense. Just stop it. Stop. I don't know what happened to his phone. I don't have the police reports. Do they have it? Did the brother pick it up? I do not know. But I can tell you this. This is not a case where she found out something detrimental or the brother's friend thought, oh my God, what will she discover? So he goes down and kidnaps her and kills her. Okay, throw that one out. Okay, that didn't happen. So the question comes down to, and this is an interesting statement here. So it said here that while her suitcase was unpacked, there were signs she had gotten ready for work that morning as the shower and towels were still wet. Some people point out that it is possible that you could take a shower at night in a hotter area and that it would not evaporate properly. The water would evaporate. The towels would still be damp. I'm okay with that theory, although Orlando does have a thing called air conditioning. I mean, I've lived in India, and believe me, you can sometimes take a shower and it's going to be still wet in the morning. This is Orlando. Can it happen? Sure. However, then it says here, I'll get into why I think that's also a nonsense thing. Her clothes were laid out on the bed. Now, here's where you have to be very aware of how people make statements. When I saw it laid out on the bed, that concerned me. Why did that concern me? Laid out on the bed tells me you never got into the clothes you laid out. Why would you lay out clothes? Okay, I'm going to wear this shirt. I'm going to wear this skirt. I'm going to wear this sweater, but you never get into them. Laid out to me means that you have a plan that never got achieved. And that set up a red flag for me. Because I'm like, well, maybe she did take a shower at night and all that. She laid out some clothes, like, I'm going to wear this tomorrow. And then some reason was abducted or left the condo, and those things just remain there. Well, it turns out later the parents say no, in a different interview, that they weren't laid out, they were thrown about. Now, I can look right in my room right now, right before the show. I'm like, should I wear this? Nah. How about this? Nah. Because I'm trying to find out something. Oh, I'm having trouble with this outfit. But anyway, what do I want to wear on the show? I was trying to do red and red. But I just have like 10 different shirt colors and only 4 of them really work. But anyway, I don't lay things out on my bed. I throw things on my bed when I'm in a rush. That's a different thing than laying things out on a bed. I did have a case where a woman did actually iron her clothes and lay them out. And then she was murdered. And one of the things I said in that case is she was going to a funeral in the morning. And I believe this happened way earlier because she was preparing, because she was preparing to get ready for the morning. She never got a chance to get to the morning, to put her clothes on and do any of these things. But in this case, laid out and thrown around is 2 different things. Apparently, the parents say that things were tossed. Like she was getting up in the morning, her makeup was laying on the counter. She jumped in, she took a shower, she put on makeup, she went and grabbed some clothes, maybe said, and then got in the car. Everything leans toward she actually spent the night in her condo and left for work in the morning. And this eliminates a lot of unlikely ideas. And I'm going to explain the number 1 red flag to why she was not abducted during the night, why she was abducted, leaving her condo at sunrise. When it was still dark, somebody grabbed her. And look, they did. I'm curious that they did not even have their own vehicle. They never owned one, didn't have one available to them, grabbed her. And there's going to be a bunch of reasons why I believe it happened in the morning. One is because I don't believe in other vehicles involved. They grabbed her, put a gun to her, a knife to her, whatever, hit her on the head, put her in the vehicle, drove away with her. And that's why you see that she got up, got ready for the day, and took her things with her, things that she would normally take to work. All of them were not found. The guy obviously tossed them, but there were things she would take to work. Now, some people say, oh, well, this is a big staging thing. She actually was kidnapped earlier, and there are different various suspects, but it's all like, oh, and then what they did was stage it. She left in the morning rather than she got kidnapped at night. No, this is not the way things work. Most of the time, people don't work that hard. They don't, especially a bunch of losers. They don't work that hard. It's not true. So everything points to that fact. She did actually get up in the morning, take a shower, and was on her way to work, just like Jody Huisentruit. And both of them just never got to work. One, because she was abducted into another vehicle, and Jennifer, because she was abducted in her own vehicle. Let me go further. All right. So now, Logan spoke to some of the construction workers on site. Let me give you the picture again. Logan is the second one, and that's the brother. And in 48 hours, they actually show him, I don't know if the reenactment, he's beating on vans, windows, white vans. It's always a white truck, a white van, because a lot of people who work in construction are in those kind of vehicles. So white vans and white trucks are very popular in that whole. It's just the way it is. And so her condo had a lot of construction going on. So there were a lot of construction workers there. So Logan spoke to some of the construction workers on site, but found them uncooperative. Okay. So in 40 hours or whatever, he's like beating on things, going, talk to me. And they're not cooperative. So it's like, oh, they must have something to do with it. Well, first of all, I would say 90% of them speak Spanish and no English. They got a crazy dude whacking on their vehicle, and they're like, yeah, no. And they're like, I'm not talking to that dude. A good portion of them probably are undocumented, which is another reason why they really don't want to talk to anybody. So is that suspicious? Not necessarily. So don't jump to conclusions, although a construction worker at the site is a reasonable suspect. I'll say that. All right. So, but I said he beat on the thing and didn't get good responses. Concerned, Jennifer's parents called the police, who shrugged off her disappearance, saying she'd likely had a fight with her boyfriend who would return. Turns out her boyfriend and she did have an argument. I don't know why everybody gets kidnapped after they have an argument. Or it's just that we have a lot of arguments with our significant others, and it's just coincidental. But anyway, now the search. Okay, let's go to the search. Despite the Orlando Police Department's disinterest in launching an investigation, okay, the word disinterest is bad. First of all, adults have the right to disappear. Much as y'all don't like that, I don't mean you guys, but in general, oh, you should race after every person who disappears. You know how many adults and even teens, even children, disappear because they feel like it. And then you spend a ton of money, you put out a huge amount of manpower, and that person's just sitting in somebody else's house smoking some weed, because they're in a bad mood that day. So there's usually a reasonable period of time where they say an adult has the right to go where they want to go. They had no proof, since her car was missing, that she just didn't say, screw it. I don't feel like going to work today. I'm going to do what I feel like doing. And just because the parents or the boyfriend say, oh, she would never do that, is meaningless, because majority of the time when a parent says their loved one wouldn't do something, their child wouldn't do something, majority of the time, it turns out their child did exactly what they said their child wouldn't do. Because people don't really know people they care about a lot of times. They just don't. So the police didn't start an investigation within the first 48, which is a good time to start one, mind you. Her family knew something was wrong. They contacted her friends to help distribute flyers along the route she took to work. The effort caught the attention of local media, who broadcast a story about Jennifer. Her family soon learned. I'm just concerned about the English grammar. I could be wrong. Disconcerting information about Jennifer's apartment complex, beyond what their daughter told them. Over half of the units were unoccupied, and the security system had yet to be installed. As well, the front gates were left open to allow the construction crews to enter and leave as needed. This is called when you buy into a condo that is not completed. This is what happens. I mean, this is not unusual. They're going to continue building the complex. There's going to be a tremendous amount of people working on the complex. All kinds of builders, there's going to be a huge amount of people. And they can't put in place all the security systems until it's complete. That's what you have to do, due diligence. If you don't want to move into a place that's under construction, don't do it. Now, I want to say something else about kind of a negative attitude toward Hispanic workers. Now, yes, there are some, indeed, undocumented Hispanic workers. And indeed, some of them are really sketchy, okay? They're not with families. They're guys who spend their time with other guys drinking, and that's never a good thing, okay? I'm totally understanding of that. But right across the street from me, my house where I live, right across the street, there's a landscaping business. We really like the guy who runs the landscaping business. He happened to marry a woman who is from Mexico. There's a lot of Hispanic workers working for that. And I can look out, I can watch the cars pull in. They're probably majority are probably El Salvadorian, some Mexican. I don't know how many are undocumented. He supposedly is paying attention and not allowing that. And I do have my granddaughter here, so I look across the way and I say, how safe is it? But I'll say, every time I've ever driven by, everybody's been friendly and nice. And mind you, I spent time in Mexico, so I don't have a preconceived idea that everybody who's Hispanic is a crappy person. So if a guy looks at me, I don't say, oh my God. Of course, I'm older, so. But oh my God, he's staring at me. When you're younger and you go into a construction site with a bunch of dudes from who, again, aren't with families, from Mexico, from El Salvador, from whatever Hispanic country in Central America, do they catcall women? Do they sometimes do this? Yeah, probably. Most of them are harmless. Can there be a bad guy amongst them? Absolutely. But that's true for white and black people too, as in this country. It's just a fact that when you have a guy who is a serial rapist, serial killer, sex offender, they come in every nationality and every race, and they're there. If they're there, they're there. It's just really freaking bad luck. Okay, so she said she had some concerns about the guys working at the condo. But were they bad guys? Most of them probably not. But there's some crazy theories about how like 10 of the guys got together and brought her to kidnapped her at night and brought her to some vacant place and raped her. And then they staged moving her car, all kinds of nonsense. Okay. I just want to get that. This is stuff that people just make up because they don't have evidence of it. So anyway, 9 p.m. on January 24th, Jennifer was officially entered into the police department system as a missing person, and a bolo was issued for her and her vehicle. It wasn't long after that investigators organized search parties and horseback, as well as by ATV, car, helicopter, and boat. They went to town as soon as they realized probably she wasn't coming back. Police worked off a host of theories in those initial days. They initially thought she had been abducted by the night before, but the theory was contradictory to the evidence found in her condo, which was that she got up in the morning and got ready for work. They then believed she had been abducted walking to her car. And again, I think that is true because it was just barely dawn. And I think that's true. But they later changed their theory to say she had been abducted on her way to work. In other words, as she got in the car and as she stopped at some stop sign, somebody jumped in her car and said, "Let's go." Is that possible? It's possible. It's not my favorite, but it's possible. All right. Investigators spoke to a couple in the complex who said they'd seen Jennifer's car swerving erratically out of the parking lot about 7:40 a.m. in what police believe points to a struggle for the steering wheel. Unfortunately, they couldn't tell what way the car went when it passed through the front gate. All right. Now, some people say this sighting of the car swerving, it was some people don't believe it even is true. I don't know if it's true or not, but it does kind of make sense because I wonder whether that person got into the passenger seat and pointed a gun at her or put a knife to her throat, told her to move, and then try to also work, you're grabbing the steering wheel because she's freaking. That makes reasonable sense to me. And the time frame makes reasonable sense to me. So again, I believe she absolutely was abducted in the morning as she was going to her car or just got in her car. I personally think probably it didn't happen further away. I think it happened right there and then. And I'll get to more reasons on all of that, why it happened in the morning and not at night. All right. So let's see. Attention was immediately placed on Jennifer's friends and family, as they usually look at who close to you doesn't want you around. And they were questioned. Her parents and brother were eliminated, as was Rob, after providing DNA and passing numerous polygraph examinations. Jennifer's ex-boyfriend was interviewed after it was learned that he had been at a bar across the street from her condo complex the night before she went missing. But he was eventually concluded it had nothing to do with her disappearance. I have not seen the files. I cannot prove her ex-boyfriend had nothing to do with it. So I want to be fair about that. But that he was at a bar near her condo, it may not be important because if you live in a specific area and you like to go out drinking, chances are you're going to be in a bar near somebody that you hang out with, right? It's just the area that you're in. He seemed to be kind of upset she'd moved on. What does that mean? It's him. Apparently the police say no. I haven't seen the police files, so I do not know. All right, next. Many of the construction workers turned out to be illegal immigrants, which is true, and thus hastily disappeared upon the police launching an investigation. Well, is it worth keeping a job if the police are going to investigate you and send you back to your country? No. I scatter. Okay. As such, investigators were unable to question the majority of them. Of those they spoke with, they found the language barrier to be a hindrance. Isn't there a thing called interpreters? How cheap are you? All right. It was learned. The person really likes the word learned. I like the word learned. Okay. It was learned A married manager at Jennifer's workplace had romantically pursued her, despite her refusing his advances. According to Jennifer's co-workers, he was very open about his attraction to her, and on the day following her disappearance, had said she'd likely been eaten by alligators. Okay, you're in Florida. Pretty much anytime somebody disappears, everyone says they've been eaten by alligators. So, tactless as that is, I might say the same damn thing. Okay. He also was late to work on the morning of January 24th. When asked about this, he said he'd been taken to jail after becoming irate at a police officer for giving him a speeding ticket. After multiple interviews, he was ruled out as a suspect. Now, why they don't say whether he actually was in jail boggles my mind in this article. If he was actually picked up to the police and taken to jail, he wasn't involved in this crime. So, ex-boyfriend, creepy, but I'm sorry, co-worker doesn't mean he did it. Okay, even if he was like obnoxious, I don't think he did it. Okay, so he's ruled out as a suspect. Due to the delay in the start of the police investigation, Jennifer's condo wasn't secured nor examined. Her computer was taken for forensic examination, but it is not known if anything of value was uncovered. Probably not, because I think this was a strange abduction. I don't think her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, the guy that worked, the brother's friend with a phone, none of that has anything to do with this. She was abducted on the morning as she was going to work by somebody. And the question is, who is that somebody? I will say that it's a stranger abduction. I absolutely believe that. But which stranger is it? This gets more interesting. Let's see. I'm just going to go to comments before I go to more of this, because there's like 700 comments. Not done by anyone who knew her. I agree with you, Clarissa. I just don't see this as there's just nothing really to make that a personal crime. I think. Oops, sorry. Let me go to something. No, try. We chit chat on the side here, and let me look for comments that are to do with. Really? Okay, some curious things here. Oh, Sarah says, who is coming in as Ashley, but hi, Ashley and Sarah. I know who you were. Anyway, Sarah, you have a beautiful wife named Ashley. Anyway, she has a gorgeous voice. Anyway, a lot of time construction workers have a criminal record. Okay, I want to talk about that because it's important. The problem is construction worker, like handyman, like security guard, are easy jobs to get because people need you to show up, period. They need you to breathe and do the damn job. So if you pull up a truck to Heckinger's, I'm showing my age, Home Depot, Heckinger's was way back, Home Depot, you pull up a pickup to Home Depot and you go, hey, anybody want to do some work? You got a whole bunch of day workers who jump on. Also works at 7-Eleven and other convenience stores. They jump on. You know who the heck they are. What you're going to do is tell them, I'm going to give you this much money for doing this much work. They're usually undocumented. Who knows what their criminal record is? Again, a lot of times you have undocumented workers coming across the border. They're people who don't have a successful life at home. Now, some of them are perfectly fine people as far as not doing bad things. But I've spent a lot of time in Mexico. You have a lot of people are very middle class, college educated. You go to certain towns, and what you see is people who are happy living in Mexico. They're doing fine. They have education. They have jobs. They have a wonderful time. They love Mexico. They love everything. They love their life. They're not coming to the U.S. But then you got some guys who are like, dang, I can't get a job here, or I just committed a crime here. They're after me. You're like, hey, I got nothing here. Crossing the border. So yes, you have a higher chance of having people with possible criminal backgrounds. So that is concerning. So that can be an issue, and that's why they have to look at undocumented workers, because they have less to lose, because they don't have families with them. Maybe they already have criminal records wherever they come from, and also they may be able to run and they're not recorded anyplace. So it's hard sometimes to track undocumented workers. So again, majority of them are not bad people, but there's that element, and it's the way it is. All right, so I want to go to now the next part of this. All right. And analysis of the car shows no a sign of a struggle, which is interesting. Why is there no sign of a struggle in the car? Could be because he put a gun to her head and made her go wherever he wanted her to go. There's a lot said that Jennifer really knew how to protect herself. She was always wary and all this crap. I hear this from every bunch of parents. Look, I had pepper spray. I'm looking around me. And then she's kidnapped. Well, apparently it didn't work, because in reality, you haven't had it happen to you yet. You can think all the things you want, but when you got a gun pointed at your head, you think differently. When you got a knife at your throat, you think differently. Also, a lot of times people are wary when they arrive home at night. It's so dark out here, and they're careful when they go in. When they come out in the morning, they're rushing off to go to work, and the sun is rising. So they get careless, and they don't see the guy jumping out at that point because they think of it as morning, not night. So why there was no struggle in the car, do not know. Probably because there was a weapon involved of some sort. Now, the amount of gas in the tank indicated it hadn't been driven outside of Jennifer's normal routine. This is so incredibly useful. And I want the family to pay attention to this. Their gas was not used outside of her normal routine, which means the guy who kidnapped her did not go really, really far away to get rid of her body. He did not. If it had been nighttime and he had tons of time, hours to work with, he could have taken her someplace, raped and murdered her, and then driven 2 hours away, dumped her someplace nobody's going to be looking, or buried her in a shallow grave, come all the way back. Well, now you will say, maybe just put gas in the car. Okay, that's possible. I personally don't think she was taken at night, so I don't think that's true. So I think he had the time that she went missing, which was 7:38 in the morning, and the time the car was dumped, and we're going to get to the dumping where the car was left, was a little over 4 hours. And if unless he really rolled into a gas station and put gas in there, he didn't go that far to get rid of her. And I've got a theory on that, so I'll get to that. So I always ask people to have patience because I want you to see the whole process here. All right. Amount of gas in the tank indicated hadn't been driven outside of Jennifer's normal routine, and a valuable DVD player was still in the back seat. Now, all of her other stuff was missing, but the DVD player was back there. And my guess is because he didn't care. He wasn't actually looking at stuff to steal. He was looking at her, which was what he wanted to steal. And if she had stuff with her in the front seat, that would be the stuff that he thought, I got to get rid of this crap, and probably dumped it wherever her body was. Okay. And never bothered to even pay attention to the back seat because he just didn't care. Now it says next, there was only indication that something was wrong was a large boot print near the gas pedal and the fact the driver's seat had been adjusted. Now, I want to point out the fact issue. I just love fact issues. Where did the fact come from? I don't know where the fact came from. I don't know that the fact is even true. Let me see if I can find my picture here. Oh, I so wish the pictures weren't so incredibly small. Okay, maybe I'm going to have to jump through a couple pictures just to find it. Nope. And nope. And nope. And nope. And nope. Where the heck is the picture? Gosh, I hate this. Okay. Let me go find it someplace else, maybe. There's just this footprint. Okay, just some smudge, all right, near where the seat is. I can't figure out where my picture went to. I'm going to try one more time just to see. Nope, I'm just doing my usual where I lose things. What the heck happened to it? Anyway, nope, not that. Anyway, so there was a footprint. And it said the seat had been adjusted. Well, the guy that they eventually thought did it was so small that he was smaller than her. I don't know what they mean by the seat was adjusted. He moved it forward because he couldn't reach the pedals. And he was only how far was he driving? And this is important. If he was going to drive a reasonable amount of way to some place where he could rape and murder her, to a home, to then dump her body, he might want to get more comfortable. So I think she was 5'8". He'd have to move the seat up, not back. Usually when a guy drives, he moves the seat back, and because a woman's smaller. But this case, but again, we don't have good information. And I just want to point out, when I don't have access to the police files and you don't have access, we're just going with whatever crap is on the internet. So supposedly there was some evidence that somebody else had been in the driver's seat. So somebody else was driving around. Well, this does make sense because of this. He kidnapped her. Now, when he kidnapped her, he might have jumped into the passenger side, depending on how well the car was locked or what he did to her. He also got to hit her on the head and thrown her on the back seat and jumped in the driver's seat. But at some point, regardless, if he's going to take her someplace and dump her body, he has to drive the car. He's got to, because she's dead. She can't drive anymore. He's got to drive the car. And perhaps he did fix the seat. But again, we don't know. But it would be interesting to know that he moved it up or he moved it back. And it doesn't say which way it had been adjusted. And that would tell you a lot about who drove the car. But we don't know. The car was photographed and taken for forensic examination. It yielded little in way of evidence, providing only a latent print that was later determined to belong to Jennifer, and a small DNA fiber that proved inconclusive. It was deduced that the vehicle had been wiped down by whoever parked it at the Huntington on the Green. So they're claiming that the guy wiped down the vehicle. Now, he didn't have to wipe it down when it was found, where it was found. He could have wiped it down earlier after he removed her body, did something to her. He could have wiped everything down. He could have put gloves on at that point. He could have just used a cloth opening the door handle. He was only in this car for 30 seconds. When he pulled into this location, he was only there for 30 seconds. Then he jumped out and walked away. So he wasn't running around the car doing this stuff. He wasn't sitting there for 30 minutes. So my guess would, if he actually cleaned up the car in any way, it happened someplace else. But we don't know where the someplace else is. Police canvassed the area and asked residents if they'd seen anything unusual. They brought in bloodhounds to track her scent, and they led investigators back to Jennifer's apartment. No evidence was located on the route back to Mosaic. That Mosaic is where she lived. Mosaic at Millennium. Okay, so they did bring in tracker dogs. There were 2. And I'm going to get into the tracker dogs in a minute because this is very interesting. So I don't want to get there yet. Okay, investigators thought they got a break because they had this. They found the car. Somebody reported the car was there. It had been left at 12 p.m. And this is important. She was kidnapped around 7:38. Car was found in this complex. It's a place called Huntington on the Green. Okay, it is. Let me show you how far away from the house it was. Not very far away. Let me tell you, it was quite close. Let's see if this is my picture. Hold on a second. No, hold on. I find my picture. Okay, look at this picture. At the bottom, you will see exactly how far. It's 1 mile away. You will see that on the left, where the little red dot is, that's where Jennifer lived. And if you drive over there and you go to that one spot there, you are now on Huntington on the Green. This is an apartment complex. It's literally, it's very close. You could walk it in 20, 25 minutes. You just go out of the complex and you walk down there, and then you go straight down the road to her complex, which is interesting because why is the car there? But what is more interesting is why is the car being parked there at 12 p.m.? Okay, this is broad daylight, all right? But that is what happens. You see this guy here? This is the car. It's parked at this location. Somebody calls in and says, I see the car. And then they go through all the videos, and they see this guy walking by the pool area behind this, this fence. He's on the outside of the fence, by the way. And he's walking along, and this is the image they have of the guy who left the car. This is the killer of Jennifer Kesse. No question. However, we don't know who the heck the guy is, but he left the vehicle at 12 p.m. Midday, broad daylight. How odd is that? Now let's stop here for a second. let's say he, which we know is him, and now he could have worked with somebody else. It could have been a duo. But anyway, let's say he kidnapped Jennifer at night. Now, in order for her to be kidnapped at night, we have to believe that the shower was wet. So she would have gotten ready for bed. She took a shower. She put out her clothes for the next day. And then she said, oh my God, I need Diet Pepsi. That's what I would need. I need Diet Pepsi. It's January in Orlando, but it's still warm enough. I'm going to put my flip-flops on. I'm going to run down to my car. I'm going to take my phone. Maybe my briefcase and the things that went missing were just already in the car for some reason, maybe in the trunk. I don't even know where they were because they're not saying. I'm just going to grab my phone and I'm going to run down with my flip-flops. I took my shower, but okay, my hair is wet, but who cares? I need the Diet Pepsi so badly. I run down to my car about 11 o'clock at night, whatever. I'm going to grab this stuff and come back and go to sleep. And some guy then jumps out of the bushes and kidnaps me at night. I don't have too much of a problem with this, only because I have been known to leave my house after taking a shower and going to 7-Eleven to buy Diet Pepsi. I'm an addict, but just Diet Pepsi. So anyway, could this happen? Yes. But here's my problem with it. So you kidnap her 11, midnight, whatever. You got her in the car. You take her someplace. You rape and murder her. You dump her body. What the heck are you doing with her car until noon the next day? Why wouldn't you dump her car in the dark where nobody would see you dumping it? Nobody would see you walking away from it. Why in the heck would you do it in the middle of the night? You would do it in the middle of the night. You wouldn't wait till noon the next day. That's insanity. So that's one reason, again, I'm against the nighttime kidnapping. If you kidnapped her at 7:38 in the morning, on the other hand, and you did something to her and then had to dump her body somewhere in the next 4 hours, then you're sitting there with a car that belongs to a woman that's gone missing. You got to get rid of the car. So therefore, you would dump the car at noon because you got to get rid of the car. So the car was dumped at noon and the guy's seen walking away. So I say, absolutely, the crime occurred. She was abducted in the morning. Something happened to her. He killed her, and the car was dumped in this, left in this apartment complex. Now I'm going to get to the other problem of the case. If we already established that she was kidnapped in the morning, and whatever happened to her happened in between that 8 and 12, and he left the car here, the next question is going to be why he left the car here. This is another very interesting question. This is going to be the crux of why I think maybe we need to look at this case a little bit differently. Because yes, it makes sense that if you kidnapped her in the morning, you dump her car, but why don't you dump her car someplace else? Why in the middle? Let me show you the actual complex, because this is what is so bizarre about this case. All right, so here we have. Let's see if I got some better pictures here. This is their car. You can see this is where it is in the middle of this complex, middle of the complex. Now let me show you another picture. This is the kind of it's a condo. It's not a very expensive condo, so that may have some information. But here is the car in the condo. Look at where it is. You see the condos right straight in front. You see the condos to the right, and there's also condos to the left. Let me show you a picture of the complex. Do you see the swimming pool? All right. The swimming pool is what he's walking by when he's the photos that are the video that's taken of him is him walking by the swimming pool. All right. Because that's where the fence is around. It's protecting the swimming pool. So the video is coming from inside the swimming pool to the outside where he's walking by on that street. He had to be coming from the right up at the top. You will see if you go past the swimming pool just a little bit. If you were driving in, swimming pool's on your left. Now you're driving in. Now look right up there as he's driving in. That is where the car is parked, right there, where you can see there's condos to the top, there's condos to the left, and there's condos to the bottom. That's where he parked. Okay. Let me see. I think I have another picture of this and I want to show it to you because where he parked this is so odd. Let me see if I have a picture here. Okay. Just to clear it up again. He's seen walking this way toward the main street past the pool. This is where he parked. As far as I can tell, if I'm wrong, somebody can correct me, but I think he parked right exactly there. All right, there. In other words, he drove up here. He pulled in. If I do it correctly, he drove up here. He pulled in and he parked right here. Then he got out of the vehicle and he walked back out past it. That's where you see the video. And then he walked down the street. All right. Now, here's my problem with that. 12 p.m. This area, for God's sakes, there's people everywhere. I mean, there's condos everywhere that can see you. They can look out and see you. You're parking right in front of all these people. If you look at this complex, there are places way down here, which if you pulled in and parked there and walked away, nobody would pay attention to you. And there's probably no video, no CCTV down here, for God's sake. The CCTV was at the pool. And it has signs. Watch out. We're watching you. I mean, there's signs here. What the heck is a guy parking here when he can park here? And I only point that this is if he stayed on the complex. There's a million better places to park on the complex. Now, why do people sometimes pick a location to dump a vehicle? Well, because they want to point the police at that complex, like one of those people kidnapped the person. But usually what they do when they do this is they find a massive complex with a huge parking lot. And they park at the end of the parking lot where nobody can see them. And there's like 10-story apartment building, and then they just walk away and there's no cameras. They do it in the dark. And the next day when the police finally find the car, it's in a massive parking lot next to this big, massive building. And usually they try to pick really poor people. So you're like, oh yeah, poor people, drug dealing, whatever. This is weird because he had all these other places to park, didn't do it. Parks here in broad daylight and walks out. That is freaky. Now, also to say, that is not the only place he could have parked. Let's look around the location. This is going out of the street. He could have just parked on the side of the dang street. And I'm looking at Google Earth here. And mind you, back in 2000, what was it again? 2006. Yeah, this wasn't. I don't even think they had that then. That's the swimming pool. He's walking out of that parking lot past that fence. And so this is the whole property. You see, you could pull over just literally any place and not park in the dang parking lot. Why are you in the freaking parking lot? That's what I want to know. Why are you there when you have all these other places? Here's some more pictures. Look, why not just pull into that shabby little place on the left there, some kind of shed? It's open. You could just pull the car over there and walk away. That would be a better place. Say, here's some streets. And you could pull in. Well, I'm going to get to the place on the left here in a minute. But there's a ton of places you could park your vehicle, dump the vehicle, even in broad daylight, which make more sense than parking here. What the heck? Why would you do that? Now, if you really want to keep you think you're going to be known, especially if you are a person who is known to the victim, you're not going to park where you can think anybody's going to see you, where a camera can pick you up. You're not going to do this. If you want to, push the crime onto somebody, some group of people, there's places to do that. This is not one of them. Okay. So the question is, in my opinion, why did he park here? And this becomes an issue in the case. Okay. So we have now, I believe she was kidnapped in the morning on the way to work. I believe that he did something to her and dumped her body prior to showing up here at 12 p.m. And that's a very short period of time. And this becomes something else that's very interesting. Let's look at the short period of time. Let's see if I have a picture here. Okay. On the right, you will see, on the left, you'll see where she lived. And then you'll see it's only a 5-minute drive to this, the location where the car was found. Okay. I think I have another picture of this. Where is it? No, that's not it. Where's my picture of the car? What the heck? Oh, that's funny. Hold on a second. Where did I put it? I brought this picture over purposely to show this to you. Oh, okay. It's this picture. That's what, oh, the car's found there. Okay. I'm going to get into I didn't want to get to that yet. Okay. Let's look at where the body could be dumped. All right. That's not it. Okay. Here we have, this is this picture here. Take a look at this. All right. So the red thing on the red dot on the bottom is where she lived. The red dot to the left is where she worked. It takes 20 minutes to get there. And we're talking, I remember the gas, how much the extra gas wasn't used. All right. That's where she worked. But she didn't go there. We know that she didn't go there. We know that her body was found just to the right of the bottom red dot. That's where she was found. But in reality, if she only would use 20 minutes to go to work and her body and the gas wasn't used, unless this guy stopped at a gas station, which I just don't think he did, where would her body be? All right. Here's another picture of this. This is, I just want you to look at the area. Because a lot of people say, well, she's been thrown into a lake with a lot of alligators. And there was even a person who said they saw somebody that morning pulling up to a lake and dumping a carpet in. They thought was a carpet. And then the police searched the lake and they found nothing, which is weird. Because if you dump a person with a carpet right at the edge, they're not going very far. So if they didn't find it there, I just don't believe the story. Okay, so I want to show you this picture. Where's my picture? Okay, now hold on a second. I've got to work on it. Okay, so there's a lot of places. What I think, if they're going to look for a body, let me find my picture. Okay, here's my picture. Okay, so here she is. That's where she lives. Here's where she's found. Supposedly, this takes 19 minutes to go here, and only amount of gas that would take her to go here, but no more amount of gas was used. So do I think that the guy drove halfway across the state to dump her 2 hours away? Unless he went to the gas station. And that is, questionable that he would do that. No, I don't think so. So if her gas was just the same as if she went here, then theoretically, the amount, the area which he would have taken her to dump would be a circle. Let's see if I can do this correctly here. So in other words, if you take halfway here, in other words, she'd use enough gas to go like from here to here, right? But somewhere around here, if you take a circle around, that would be the area he'd have to dump her to have the gas be the same. And that's the picture I have over here. So that's where she is. And this is the area, I think, if you're not going to use more gas, her body has to be. And where would he put her body? Lakes are obviously the most obvious. But I want to point this out. A lot of lakes that you see here, you go, oh, look, there's a lake there. Yeah, there's a lake there with people like right around the lake. There's like no way you can even pull up to the lake. There's very few places you can do this, where you can pull up to a area of water and dump a body in the middle of the day and not be seen. That's the problem. So what does that mean? Well, it means either you found a place where nobody goes that you know about. Now, for example, there is a place, I don't know if I can pull it up here. I have it here somewhere. Okay, there's this place. There's this lake. You said it's the lake up above there. I can't quite show it to you well, but it's actually a school there. And there's a lake. I think, is that it? I forgot the name of it. Lake. I can't read this because it's too small. It's too small on my crap here. But there is a, hold on a second. Okay, there is a lake, which isn't very far away, which is connected to, there's a small like lake pond connected to a school. And that location has a kind of a lower income neighborhood. And then the school is there. And then there's this lake, which you can just go, just kind of isolating, go walking around. You can also drive around it, but nobody's around it. That would be the kind of place he could dump the body. But I don't know where they looked. I don't know where they tried to find a body. And if he kept the body and didn't discard it during those 4 hours, Where was the body? Now, it's possible he could have kept the body in. Let's say he went home, put the body in the back in his house, and then that night he said, "Hey, bro, can I borrow your truck?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, man, I just want to go out and drink, and you know me, I walk every place. I don't have my own vehicle. Can I borrow your vehicle?" And he says yes. So this has happened more than once. So then he grabs the truck, puts the girl in it, and then he can drive all over creation and dump her someplace. He can take a shovel with him and put her in a shallow grave in some isolated area. She's never been found. So whatever he did, either was he just simply lucky, or if he was able to get further away and keep her body someplace temporarily and then move her further away when he had access to a vehicle. I honestly do not know because I cannot see the records. But all I can say is that she absolutely was abducted during the day in the morning, and the car was dumped at Huntington on the Green at 12 p.m. So we're talking about she's abducted here. 4 hours later, she's here. Either the body is somewhere here and they just never found it, or the guy kept her body someplace and later disposed of it. But he got rid of the car earlier on. So why would he get rid of the car earlier on? And a lot of people think, well, there's this whole bunch of conspiracy theory crap where all these people got together and decided they were going to hire somebody to move the car. That's all nonsense. The only reason you dump the car in the middle of the day at 12 noon is because you don't want to be seen with the dang car. It's that simple. I've got this car that I just abducted somebody in. They're now going to look for her. I got to get rid of the car. So he drives it here and dumps it. The question would be, and I believe this is a stranger homicide, and it could be somebody who worked at the condo. It could be somebody who just was visiting the condo, came there and grabbed her and then dumped her at noon and walked away. But it happened that morning. And he had to get rid of the vehicle. But the question is, why would he pick this location? I have a couple of ideas on that, but I'm going to go to some of your comments before I go to all my ideas on why that location was picked. Let's see. It said here, there weren't a ton of neighbors. She lived in an isolated location within the complex. Yeah, that it wasn't a full complex. Clearly, if you're walking to your car at dawn and somebody's either surveilling you because they also work in the complex and they say, hey, she's hot. She wasn't even there on the weekend. She had erratic hours during the weekends because she went to see her boyfriend. But she did go to work every day during the week, Monday through Friday. So somebody could recognize that. The question is, did the person work at the condo? Did they live at the condo, or were they visiting the condo? Three possibilities. This is an interesting point. Clarissa says that time of morning, construction workers would have already been around. Yes, construction workers, well, yes and no. The concept is they start early, depending on where they're working, because you don't really want to start construction workers doing jackhammering at 6 a.m. next to people who live there. That kind of pisses them off really badly. Although sometimes they do start up pretty early. Sometimes they have them doing work that's not so noisy. All depends when they come there. In the police reports, I would be wanting to look for exactly when all of the construction workers showed up. Clearly, somebody was there when she went out to the car. That either meant they showed up prior to when she came to the car because they were a construction worker. That could mean they came in. There's a number of ways they could arrive: in their own vehicle, or they could be one of those guys that arrived with somebody else's vehicle. As I said, a lot of times you get workers. I was talking about Home Depot or 7-Eleven. These are undocumented workers people usually bring to their own homes. But you have people who, let's say the construction workers are going to work there, and a lot of guys don't have cars. 5 or 6 guys will jump into a vehicle, and they will all come. So there's like one guy who owns the vehicle, but there's 5 guys who do not. Those guys could be there that time of morning, and therefore they're like, I keep seeing that girl. She's really hot. And I don't have a vehicle to take her in. I do not believe anybody took her in another vehicle, or that there was a team of people. I don't buy this. Or that they kept her, raping her in some building. No. One guy saw her coming out, didn't have a vehicle, grabbed her, with her vehicle. So was that a guy who would come there on a regular basis with the crew? Very possible. Theoretically, the police try to figure out who that person was. Now, the point being there that if the person was supposed to be there and they came in with other people, let's say you have a bunch of guys and they're coming in. Sorry, I just hit something. I almost knocked my computer up. Let's say you got 5 guys that come in together. 1 guy driving, 4 guys in the pickup. Well, there are 5 guys who are supposed to start working. Well, one of them went missing. Okay, they went missing at least for 4 hours, and then maybe they came back. I'm going to get into the dog tracking in a minute as to whether the guy came from this location straight back to the condo. It's only 1 mile away, and it makes sense. You think, oh, don't want to walk too far. You dump the car, you walk 1 mile back to the condo, and you start working. Wouldn't there be some record of a guy missing for 4 hours? I would like to see the police records on that. Now, the family, I believe, has said the police didn't do a proper job and so on and so forth. But is that true, or is it, I don't know. Did people disappear? Did people not want to talk because people were illegal? It gets to be a big, huge mess when you've got a lot of people who don't want to talk to police anyway for other reasons. Okay, so I don't know. But yes, very much likely that there could be a bunch of guys there already. Exactly 1 mile, Harper. Exactly 1 mile. Let's see. Okay, so yes, if you're talking about a 4-hour frame, yes, she would have been grabbed at 7:30 to 8 a.m. and the car's dumped at 12. You go only less than 4 hours to work with. Now, theoretically, you're going to have some, quote, fun in those 4 hours, which means you're going to rape the woman. You're going to rape her and you're going to kill her and you're going to dump her. You can't go too dang far, which is why it's important to understand if it happened at night, then, he would have all night to work with. Now, the only change here would be that he took her back to a location. Let's say he lived in a house with family. He was a cousin of somebody. So let's say even he was illegal. Let's say he came in from El Salvador and he's living in an El Salvadorian family. But at that point in time, for whatever reasons, there's only one person living at the house at that moment, and he's at work. And you're at home alone. You bring the car back to the house. You rape and murder her. You keep her someplace. And when you got to get rid of the car because you don't want family coming home and finding the dang car. So maybe you have her wrapped up in your bedroom. And you go dump the car, go about your day. And that evening you say, hey, can I borrow your vehicle? Now, I'm not saying this happened. I'm just saying could happen. So theoretically, her body could be further away than we think if he used a different vehicle to get rid of her. But if he used only her vehicle to get rid of her, then there's not that much time to work with it. She'd have to be relatively close, like the map I showed you. So yes, it gets very tricky as far as that goes. So construction workers are possible, yes. This is true. Central Americans are not the tallest people usually, he was quite short, the guy who was the perpetrator. So yes, that is one of the reasons people tend to think he might well be from Central America or Mexico, because he might be shorter than, some guy from the Zambia. Let's see. Okay. The cop said that the bloodhound tracked scents of the victim or the villain. Okay, now here's where things get tricky. Okay, let me try to explain this to you because it gets so confusing. All right, so we got the next thing we have is this. The way the guy looked. All right, so the guy looks like, where's my picture? Just the picture of the guy. How often I think I have this under control. Okay, here we have the picture of the guy. He's walking along past the pool. He is dressed in white clothing, white shirt, white pants, and he's got some kind of boots on here. It's kind of thin, kind of short. They measured that crap out. And he's got this kind of short hairstyle, or they think maybe he has put his hair in a ponytail, or he's got some kind of cap, but they can't quite tell. So the second camera caught an identified person walking along the outside of the apartment complex. Unfortunately, the camera only took images every 2 or 3 seconds, and in each, the individual's face was blocked by a fence post. The FBI was called in, but they were only able to determine that person was between 5'3" and 5'5", and she's actually taller than that. Had large feet, just kind of looked like his big feet, and was wearing clothing similar to that of a painter or a manual worker. They were unable to determine the gender. It's a dude. Okay, that's just sometimes let's not go. This is a female. Okay, it's not. This is a guy, and he was wearing clothes that might be a painter's clothes. Painters tend to wear those white clothing. Construction workers, not so much, but painters, yes. Was her condo being constructed? Was there drywalling being done and painting? Yes. Some people say, well, it could be a golfer. Probably not, but okay, And so the white clothing is interesting. I have an extra theory on that, which I'm not saying can pan out, but I just want to show you how you can look at things in many different ways. All right. So when her car was found, search crews looked through the wooded areas near Huntington on the Green, nothing related to the case, but then they brought in the search dogs. All right. The search dogs, this is what happened with the search dogs. Let me see if I find the search dog. Okay. They brought in 2 search dogs. One of the search dogs, okay, let me get you the pictures up here again. Let me get you a decent picture. Okay, that's not it. Okay, hold on a second. I want a better picture. What the heck? No. Okay. I'm going to do this one. Okay, the search dog. You see where the red dot is? Okay, sorry, where the gray dot is. So the car is back there by behind the swimming pool in the parking lot. Guy walks past. The search dogs did not catch his scent from the car until it got to the street. Now, apparently when he turned on the street, now I point this out, he turned on the street. So now this is if, mind you, here's what I do not understand. Supposedly there are these 2 seats of the car. Well, there are 2 seats, the driver's seat, passenger seat. The dog that sniffed the driver's seat supposedly then followed down to the road, not by the swimming pool. They didn't catch it until he got down to the main road. And then at that point over here, okay, guy saw the swimming pool, comes down. Right about here, the dog, when it turns this way, supposedly gets the driver's side scent, and he continues down the road right to the condo, a mile away. Now, first of all, I do not understand this. Wouldn't you actually use something from her that would show her scent? I don't see anything about them using like the towel or her clothing or something that would show her scent to see whether, first of all, her scent was in the car or where it went. It's very weird, but they're assuming because the dog sniffed on the driver's seat that at some point he was driving it, because he was seen pulling in 30 seconds and he gets out. So clearly he was driving. Okay. All right. So the dog has sniffed theoretically this guy, and the dog doesn't pick it up until he's down to the main road, which is a little weird. It's like, why doesn't the dog pick it up from the car going to the road? But the supposed dog picks up his scent going down the road to the condo. All right. But there's a second dog. The second dog sniffs the passenger side. Now, mind you, again, what I point out, I haven't got a clue that any of this crap is true. I'm seeing it from different reports, little pieces. I don't know any of the truth of this garbage. I know they used dogs to track, but I just don't know the reality of how the tracking went. But supposedly the second dog, let me show you the picture here. Let me find the picture. Okay, here we go. The second dog supposedly sniffs up the passenger side, but ends up not at the condo, but at this place where the red dot is. It's a different condominium group called, what is it called? I can't read that far, but it's a different condominium group up there, which is very interesting. So why is the dog going that way? So we have one dog coming out and going this way. We have one dog coming out and going up here. Which dog is correct? Are both dogs correct? Is it possible that once he got rid of Jennifer's body, somebody else was in the vehicle with him and they drove to the place? Oh, wait a minute. We only saw one guy get out of the vehicle, though. So who's the other dude? Who's the other guy wait a minute, who's the person going up to that spot at the top? I don't know. Was the dog lost his damn mind? Now they will also say maybe somebody walked by the car, touched the car, walked by the car, and the dog picked up that scent and went wherever that person went, and it has nothing to do with the crime. You see how confusing this is? All right, so I don't know if I believe the dogs. Totally. Clearly, I would say this. The dogs are probably not following Jennifer's scent. Why do I say this? All right. If the dogs can sometimes follow a scent, even when a person's in a vehicle, it's a little more difficult. But it's possible that she could have been kidnapped from her condo, and then the car pulled out, went over to this location here, parked. And so her scent went from her condo to this condo, and the dog followed her down that street 1 mile to this condo. And so it was her scent all the way there. Except that's impossible because her body was dumped between her condo and that condo. So that doesn't make sense, really. Well, no, not really. So, and she couldn't have walked from here back to her condo because she's dead. So that can't be true. So we do have to think it's the perpetrator, in theory. All right, so now we've got the dogs. Let's go back to one of our pictures if I can find it. Okay, here we are. All right, so we got the dog, and the dog is now going from the gray spot to the red spot, or to that other location. Now, I'm trying to figure out how to explain this because it's confusing. But what I'm trying to do is show you how many different ways that you might have to look at things. All right. One of the weird issues to me is this. Here's why did he park the vehicle in that lot? Okay. Let me see what pictures I've got here. I've got that picture already. Okay. Why didn't he just park it down the street any place, in the woods, any place, so he wouldn't be seen on a camera? Why not? Usually people do this because they've got a reason to be here. Why would they be here? Why do they feel comfortable here? Why do they think they should park here? Is it because they have relatives there? Is it because they live here? What is the reason? Now, here's an interesting thing I just want to point out. This is how you can see things a little differently. Now, this is where the swimming pool is. The guy walked down here and his scent was not picked up to this area. You know what's in this area? Well, oddly enough, it's this place over here. It's a pizza joint. Really, I'm not kidding you. It's a pizza joint. Now, the pizza joint, let me show you a better picture of the pizza joint. Pizza joint. Crap. Okay, hold on. I got to find it. Where's my pizza joint? This is just all the areas around. Okay, where's my pizza joint? Okay, that's the street he's coming out on. There's the pizza joint. It is catty corner to the swimming pool. It's called Mamma Mia's Pizzeria, and it was there at the time the crime went down. Right catty corner to the swimming pool. Also on the street where the scent of the dog was found. The dog picked up the perpetrator's scent was on the street. Now, let's go back to a picture of our hold on a second. Okay, I got to go back to, hold on a second. Okay, that's the pizza joint. Let me go back to our walking dude. All right. Here's our walking guy, all dressed in white. We assume he's a painter. And it's perfectly reasonable to think the guy's a painter, because that is a lot of times what painters wear. But just so you don't get completely obsessed with the fact he's got to be a painter, let's look at this picture. It's a pizza joint. Catty corner, sorry, lost my glasses. Catty corner to this. It's right down here. It's right there. So the guy walks out, comes down here, pizza joint's right on the corner. And then he supposedly goes this way. All right. What are the pizza people wearing? I've been in a lot of pizza places, and a lot of them wear 100% white outfits. Maybe the guy's not a painter. Maybe he makes pizzas. Maybe he makes pizzas across the street. Now, when you're looking at why people park places, a lot of times it's because they got someplace to be at a certain time. Like I had to be at work at noon. So I better park the car close enough to the place where I got to go working and run down here and get in here so I'm not late. Is that possible? Well, when we're looking at a lot of perpetrators, they're not all brilliant. They may do some things right, but then they do something stupid. They're like, dang, I kidnapped her at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. I took her to whatever he did with her, dumped her in a lake, raped her, dumped her in a lake, took her back to the house, whatever he's done with her. And now he's like, oh, man, I got to get to work. And I better not be late or they're going to notice I'm not there. And I got to get there and I got to get there quickly. So let me just park here and walk down here and go to this place. Now, could he park someplace better? Maybe. But maybe he knows people here. Maybe he's been here before. He thinks, I'll just park in here and walk down here to the shop. Nobody will suspect me because, hey, I make pizzas. I would like to go back to the records of the pizza place and find out whether he made pizzas there. And some guy, again, he wouldn't be late to work. Because where was the guy until 12 p.m.? Where wouldn't he be at work before 12? A construction worker should be there earlier. Even if it wasn't going to be 6 o'clock in the morning, usually they start up early enough to annoy the hell out of you if you live there. So at least by 8, 9 o'clock, they're already banging away. So either there was a construction worker missing until noon at the complex, or there was a guy who showed up right on time for his pizza job because restaurants don't open quite as early. So I would like to know, was the white outfit he was wearing related to the fact he made pizzas and not that he was a painter? But now you ask an interesting question. What about those sniffer dogs? The dog at least picked up the scent from here and went away from the pizza place to the condo, Jennifer's condo. Does that eliminate if he was a pizza dude working at the pizza shop? Would that eliminate him because drop the car and then the guy goes, shoo. Well, the answer to that is no. And this is where you start thinking outside the box. Okay. Does it, if the scent was not found from here to here, the scent was found from here to down to the condo. What if he worked at the pizza place the night before, and after he finished his shift late at night or whatever, or maybe he lived with a friend here, I don't even know. He walked down to the condo. Maybe he had somebody he was hanging out with down there. Maybe, that bar that was close by? Maybe he was walking down there to go to a bar. Maybe he had a friend who was a construction worker at the condo. Just because he wasn't a construction worker or a painter doesn't mean he didn't have painter friends who worked at that condo. And that place where all the guys are hanging out, maybe he had a free place to stay. Maybe he finished work, walked down to the condo and stayed in that empty spot. And then he was coming out in the morning and said, hot damn, there's a good looking girl there. Grabbed her car, runs around, does what he got to do, dumps the car here and says, I got to get to work. And he goes here. There you have a complete explanation for why it may not be the guys that worked at the condo, but a guy who knew the guys at the condo. And maybe the scent wasn't picked up the day that the car was dumped, but the night before the car was dumped. That's when he went down to the condo and stayed around there and found her. Or maybe he walked down to the condo in early morning because maybe he, for whatever reason, at the condo some other days and he saw the girl and he said, hey, one of these days I'm going to just walk on down here because I don't have a vehicle. I'm going to walk on down here and maybe I can grab that girl. And he does. So his scent is from here to here. But does that mean that the scent came from the day he walked out and he went straight back to the condo to work? No, it doesn't. And what about this other location up here where they don't know why the other dog went that away? Does he live actually that away? Does he have friends up that way? Is this guy just one of these guys that moves around different places? I don't know. But what I want to point out is that sometimes you get stuck thinking there's only one way things can happen, and they cannot. They can happen in many different ways. Once you start realizing that, wait a minute, if I take away the fact, everybody assumes that if the guy went right down here, the scent went right down here. The scent was picked up because That's when he went down there. But it could have happened the night before or the early morning hours. And he could have just dumped this thing, went right straight to work. And that scent wasn't picked up from that day, but from the night before or the early morning before. You see how things can change just like that? Could he be a pizza worker and not a painter? It's possible. Now, I'm not claiming this is true, but I would like to say that, first of all, definitely a stranger homicide. 2, it happened in the morning. When he noted her, how he knew of her is another question. He would have to, he either got lucky that morning or he had seen her before. Do I believe he lived in the area? Absolutely. Do I believe he is a serial rapist, a serial killer? Yes, absolutely. Do I know where I put her body? No, I do not. If you only had a few hours to work with, her body should be in that circle that I showed you. If he was able to have a relative he could take the car to, hang out with, and borrow their vehicle and dump her someplace else from the night before. Well, no, as I said, wait a minute, let me go back and do it right. He would kidnap her in the morning, take her someplace, kill her, leave her body, dump the car, go to work, and then that night he'd go borrow a vehicle and dump her body far, far away. And that's why she hasn't been found. But again, I believe she was kidnapped that morning. When her body was dumped, I do not know. I don't know if he could use a different vehicle to dump her body or he used her vehicle. I don't believe there's more than one person involved. I believe it's just this one creepo dude. I do believe that he had some connection to this location because it's a strange location. Because again, you don't dump cars where you're going to be seen unless for some reason you feel really comfortable there and you need to get to work on time. Sometimes psychopaths think in very strange ways. They go, well, just like it's just a necessity. I got to get to work. And that's what they do because I got to get to work. So, you want to have this guy with a more clever plan, but maybe it isn't any more clever. Maybe that's just because it was a necessity. But I would, if I had access to the files from the Kesses, if they wanted me to be involved, I would love to go through all the interviews. I want to know about the pizza place. It may be absolutely nothing to do with it, but I want to know about it. I want to know about I do want to know about the people who worked at the condo. But I can tell you right now, I eliminate anybody who wasn't a stranger to her. I don't believe it's anybody who knows her. It looks like to me a very, not unfortunately, uncommon methodology of grabbing somebody at dusk or dawn who is unaware of that's about to happen. And they're able to simply get lucky and dump the body. And for whatever reason, it didn't get found. But again, I think unless he used a different vehicle, that circle, the body would have to be in that circle. Anyway, let me go to your comments at this point. Okay. All right, let's see what you got to say. It could be Japanese. Well, can't discount it. Just a set. Or a small Italian. Because I like the pizza joint. During this time, the area was not the best. What does that actually mean? The location I looked at where that school was in the little lake, which I thought was a great location for the area. I forgot what the name of it was now. Now it's really annoying me because I know I looked it up. And the funny thing was I looked up I'm trying to see if I can find my history here. Where's the history? Oh, I'm in the wrong place here. It was a place that, interestingly enough, let me find the history. Hold on a second. See if I can find it. Richmond Heights. That was the name of it. Richmond Heights, very close by, had a great place you could pull up with no people around because I couldn't find many lakes where you could pull up during the day and there wasn't a house sitting right there. Quite expensive houses, mind you, all circling the lake. This was the one place I said, hey, there's nobody there. And it was in Richmond Heights. Richmond Heights is a lower income community, which over the years has had some issues. And again, you have nice people living there, but it's just a poor community. And it was I think something like 50% African American and like 30% Hispanic, and then some white and so many whites, and mostly that was the group. I don't know, and over the years it's changed. But yes, you have some poor areas and drugs are involved, and then there's the issues of car theft and things like that. But again, most people are nice in these areas, but you got a whack job in every area. But the difference would be is where does the whack job live, and that you could look at the whack job's income and make some determinations as to where that person could possibly live. And people work and they kidnap where they're comfortable, where they have access. That's one of the biggest clues on these things. You usually don't do things where you're not familiar with it. Like, even though there was you think, well, gosh, wasn't there, you had security here. I mean, there was cameras. Why wasn't the guy worried about that? Maybe he knew those cameras were crap. Maybe he knew that there were not cameras at the only by the pool. He wasn't worried about it. He's just going to walk by quickly. He wasn't worried about the house, actually. And he didn't think he'd be recognized there or whatever. I don't know what his thinking was, why he'd park here. But I would have to say, this is an odd place to pick if you were just trying to dump a vehicle. If you were trying to dump a vehicle and not be seen, you would have done it. As I say, I showed you a bunch of other places. You could just dump it in behind some business or someplace. You could walk away and nobody'd ever see you. And, it just makes no sense you'd go here unless you had some connection or you just needed to go to work in the morning. Oh, my shift's starting. Got to get there. I don't want to park in their lot. Let me park over here and walk down. I don't know. But why did he pick this place? And I would love to go through all the files. I'd like to see who they interviewed, what businesses were around. There's so many things I would look at if I had the opportunity, which I do not know from the outside. So I do not know whether the police did a good job or not. The family was very upset. They ended up suing the police and to get basically a FOIA request. They wanted all the files. And they said, look, they found out the police supposedly hadn't done any work on the case in 10 years. And they were really pissed because it was called an open investigation, which is what police always call an investigation that's going nowhere. In other words, they basically shelve it, but they call it an open investigation, meaning that if any information comes in, we'll look at it. But meanwhile, they're not going to spend every day. They're not going to have one detective dedicated to looking for something they can't figure out what it is. They haven't found a body. They don't know who it is. They're just not going to do it. And so they're going to shelve it and going to tell the family the case is open because it is officially open. And so somehow they managed to spend like, how much they gave, $18,000 or something to get redacted. The entire file is redacted. That's a heck of a lot of money. But they did it, and a lot of stuff was redacted, but they've got them. And supposedly the PI, who I'm not sure, I don't know what the PI is thinking. I think the father at one point thought that Jennifer was taken into sex trafficking. Of course, this is absolute nonsense. And I say this all the time. No, you don't need to kidnap women into sex trafficking because there's a lot of blonde girls who'll go there without your kidnapping them. Now I think the PI thinks it's one of the 10 guys that were construction workers, and that's reasonable. I just don't know what he's looking at besides that. The FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, it now has the case and is reviewing it, and they were very excited. I think it started in 2022. I think I misplaced my thing. It said and they were excited because they're like, oh, see, everything's going to go, it's going to be solved now. And apparently nothing has happened. So, which is not surprising. What in the world is this? I just messed up my hole. What in the world? Okay. Where is it? Okay. Let me see if I can find that information about what they're doing now. It says here, okay, here we go. Where's the stuff about? Okay. Jennifer is still considered missing and endangered by the Orlando Police Department, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the National Crime Information Center. All right. So they're continuing to receive and pursue leads, as they always say. So apparently what happened was, okay, let me get you just so you can know this information. In 2018, okay, wait. Okay, after years with no breaks in the case, the Kesses sued the Orlando Police Department for Jennifer's files. They previously asked that the case be made cold as more resources are available for such cases. I like that concept. I'm in agreement with them. At a certain point, you say, look, this case is screwed. Barring somebody confessing or barring her body being found with DNA attached to it, you're not really working on this case. We know you're not working. If you made it a cold case and made it no longer active, maybe we could get other people. What the heck? At this point, let other people look at the dang case. Like maybe me or their private investigator or another agency, whatever. Somebody else, fresh eyes, that kind of concept. They refused, the police department, despite no leads being filed since 2010. They shared that they felt abandoned by investigators and believed no one had worked in the case in years, which is pretty much true, but it was just shelved and waiting for, if there were any incoming information, they would work on it then. They would unshelve it immediately if they had something to work with. Prior to the files being handed over to the family, the then police chief of Orlando Police Department gave his team 6 months to work the case. They were unable to come up with any leads. Under the agreement with the Kesses, they were no longer leading the investigation. So in 2018, they were given more than 16,000 documents. And I'm going to tell you, 16,000 hours of 16,000 documents, and of those 16,000 documents, 15,900 are garbage, which is why it's so frustrating to analyze any kind of case, because this is nonsense. This is crap. This is a psychic tip, another psychic tip, another psychic tip. Woman hating her husband. I know. It's like a whole bunch of crap. And 67 hours of video and audio recordings. They've since hired an investigative and legal team, which concerns me because I'm always upset a lot of times because what I've seen happen is a PI will come in, charge them $50 to $100 an hour. And because they're making a crap load of money, they will take them down every possible avenue, every ridiculous, insignificant, nonsensical avenue that they can, because it makes them a whole lot of money and somebody's willing to pay it. I've worked on some cases where I've told the family, look, I know you've already hired a private investigator. Let me look at this and analyze it for free. Or a couple of times, I think I charged like $500 for just the analysis, very cheap. And then I said, okay, I'm going to tell you your PI is wasting your time. You just spent $20,000 for nothing, because they're not even looking in the proper direction, because they're not profilers. They're not profilers. And they were willing to investigate as long as it makes money. So I'm always concerned. Now, I'm not saying they're private investigators doing this, but I want to know how much they're paying this sucker. And then they have a legal team doing what? What's the legal team doing? Because unless you can come up with some clues that point somewhere, legal team's not going to do anything either. Once they got the information anyway. Pursue new leads and have conducted their own searches with the aid of other law enforcement agencies. That's 2018. It is now 2023. 5 years has passed. Have they gotten anywhere? Zero. Okay, the family hired private investigator Michael Trevetta to work on the case. Upon reading the release files, he shared his surprise over what investigators did and did not do, because you're not going to investigate anything and make any money if you don't look at what they didn't do, which is investigate a whole lot of nonsense leads. One of the first things he did was return to Jennifer's complex and speak with those who lived there. Many of the women shared they felt uneasy when the construction workers arrived. Well, that's something unique. The Kesses maintain a GoFundMe page. There have been numerous sightings, which are all nonsense. So now we're at, let's say 2021. She's still considered missing, and there's a $15,000 reward. Theories do believe Jennifer fell victim to human trafficking, which is absolute nonsense. Michael Toretta's belief that Jennifer was abducted by one or more of the construction workers, possible, because that's a reasonable thing to think, considering the white outfit and the doggy trackings and the fact she was abducted from the complex. This is based on his interviews with those who lived at the complex at the time, who said up to 10 workers were staying in an unlocked, empty apartment across from Jennifer's condo. And that could be indeed a problem. And that's what I'm saying. Even if, whether the guy worked with the people or his friends with the people, or he's a pizza guy who was also stayed there because he didn't have another place to go. It's a good question. I want to know who was in there and where they all worked. And did they all work at the complex? It's Toretta's theory she was attacked from behind while locking her door. Okay, I've just lost all confidence in you, dude. So now his theory is that it didn't happen in the morning. She was coming home and unlocking her door and was dragged into the other unit. As the case initial investigators did not speak to those men, there's no official lease, impossible to find out their names. So he's claiming that she was dragged into the 10-guy place, raped and whatever, and then they decided they had to remove her car, and they faked moving her car to a location to make it look like she. Oh, this is all nonsense crap. This is just garbage. The theory is further fueled by information Toretto learned after the family obtained the police files. He says a witness saw a man in a pickup truck stop at Lake Fisher and dump a 6x8 carpet into the water on the day Jennifer went missing. During the day, apparently. The men working at the complex had laid carpet down that day, which they do probably freaking every day. All right. The family brought in a cadaver dog to search around the lake, and based on a hit, a police dive team was called in. Unfortunately, neither the carpet nor Jennifer found. And again, if they dump it, what if the guy didn't have a boat and put Jennifer on a boat and go into the middle of the lake and dump that carpet with stuff bound around it and heavy weights? You dump a body right off the shore. I'm going to say it's a lake. She's just going to, and then she's going to float up. And then if they didn't find her, it's because it didn't happen. All right. The final theory in the case states Jennifer was abducted after leaving her condo. Correct. Either while walking to her vehicle. Correct. Or while driving to work. I doubt that. It's believed she may have had a stalker. We've been watching her in the morning. Okay. I can believe on the stalker thing, it's some guy who just either, hung around there and saw her. Yeah. Unfortunately, due to how little evidence is available in the case, no one can be positive if this is the reason for Jennifer's disappearance. I'm going to tell you the reason. A guy wanted to rape her and murder her. Serial killer. That's what I'm going with. Stranger abduction, serial killer. And I'd love to be able to actually truly analyze enough of the information to determine what is true and what is not true, and not what I've learned on the internet. And I recommend everybody think the same way. Again, educational channel. I'm not here to solve a crime, although if I'm brought in, I'm perfectly happy to work on a crime. If I give information out that happens to be useful to a family, that's great. If some family wants to contact me, that's fine. This is an educational channel, and I try to help you understand how things work and how not to just jump on everything that's out there and run away with stuff and assume that you understand what happened. I don't even understand what happened. My conclusions are based on what I know as far as what's sensible. As to who the guy exactly is, I do not know. And I say my biggest red flag is the location the car was found, because that's very unique and very odd. And therefore, I think he has some connection to that place or the location, the area there around it, that he would have a reason to dump the car there. Because otherwise he wouldn't need to do that. So those are my thoughts. Let me go back to your comments. Okay, let's see. Oh, all right. Let's see. Will you tell us we do the case pro bono? Generally speaking, I stopped doing pro bono work a long time ago because most of the time you spend a lot of energy, and I've spent my own money doing pro bono cases because police, generally speaking, won't pay for a profiler. And so I took my own money in many of my cases. I was brought in by the police, but I paid for my plane flight. I paid for the hotels. I paid for the cars. I didn't get paid for the work. But I learned a lot. It was, in my way, I thought of it was a way to expand my knowledge, and I was willing to pay for that out of my own pocket. But what frustrated me and why I stopped doing pro bono work was that oftentimes when I went and worked with the police department, I did come up with an analysis that pointed to a specific suspect based on the evidence. And the police even went, "Oh my God, we never thought, we'd overlooked that. We agree with you." They would even say that I'd helped them to come to an understanding of who actually did the crime. But because so many years have passed, they couldn't admit that I helped them, because it makes them look bad. So they just shelve my stuff, and they'd say, "She couldn't help us." And of course, what am I going to do about it? I mean, I understand where they're coming from. If they don't have the evidence to go to court, the last thing I need to do is commit political suicide by saying, Pat Brown, we screwed up the case for 4 years. Pat Brown came in and showed us where we went wrong. And, they're not going to do that. I get that. That's why I don't have like an animosity toward the police departments for doing that. I wish that as a profiler, I could work at the beginning in the first 48 with the police, so that during those first 48, I could analyze the evidence and give them my profile, my analysis of the crime, and the reasons for what I think their investigative avenues would be, where I think they should look, what their top suspects would be. I'd like to be there then. And then I can just be part of the team because everybody's working hard. I don't need to be special. I don't need to have, oh, the detectives couldn't do it. I could. I don't want that. I would like to be part of the team. So, but a lot of times it's just not the way the world works right now. And one day maybe we'll have profilers in every major police department. Maybe we'll, as I hope, train detectives to be their own profilers and do just have better training. Will I work certain cases pro bono? Certain cases I will. I have admitted I would be willing to work because of certain circumstances and my own curiosity. Yet, would I work the Jennifer Kesse case pro bono? I might be willing to do that. Again, my sister lives in Orlando. So I'm already there. I like warm weather. I wouldn't mind going down there, hanging out for a little bit. I can do my shows from Orlando, and I can go in and look at the things I think are most important as far as understanding this case. And maybe I could forward the case, and maybe I couldn't. But yeah, I would do this one pro bono. I would. Alligator food. Well, there's a lot of alligators, and that is always what people say when it comes to a Florida case where the body's missing. But alligators don't always eat up every part of the body, so it's still unusual that it wouldn't have a piece of it wouldn't have shown up. Let's see. Let's see. Wonder if the complex where the car was found had some construction work done too. That's an interesting question, Kurtz. Not that I know of, but yes, I would like to know who worked at the other apartment, condo complex. This would be good to know. Is there a handyman that works there? Is there a guy that's done landscaping? Because usually if you work with any of those, they're all similar, so you might be a handyman, you might be a landscaper, you could have somebody in that complex wanting you to do drywall work. I know when I lived in my old house, which was 250-year-old house, when I moved in, I needed drywallers, and all the people I hired were from Mexico. They were great. They did the drywalling, they did the painting. They did a really good job. So yes, I would like to know in both those complexes, the one where the car was found and the one where the dog went to the other complex. I'd like to know who worked in those complexes, and it could be not necessarily have to be hired by the management. It could be just one condo where somebody wanted to fix something in their condo and they hired somebody in. I would like to know if there is a connection. That's a very good question and a very good point. Let's see. It is frustrating. See, any case where the body's never found, or even if the body is found, but the killer is never identified, it sucks. I mean, years and years and years of just wonder what happened. Now I can tell a family what happened. Bad guy grabbed your daughter and did something bad to her. But that's, people, when they think of the concept of closure, which never really exists, they want to at least have understood what happened, even if they can't understand the creep that did it. Of course, they often ask the creep, "Why would you do this to my daughter?" And I always go back to the movie. It's Eye for an Eye, with Sally Field, one of my favorite movies. And the guy kidnaps her daughter. Oh no, he doesn't kidnap her. He comes into her house and he brutally rapes and murders her daughter. It's Kiefer Sutherland, and he's amazing. He's like the perfect creepy rapist killer dude, serial killer, perfection. One of the best movies I've ever seen for that. But at a point in the movie where they meet up, and he tells her with this obnoxious, completely unempathetic voice, well, the fact that he killed her daughter, he said, well, it wasn't personal to me. It wasn't anything personal. And Sally Field says back, well, it was personal to me. And that is absolutely accurate. To the killer, it's not personal. She's just somebody she was useful. I wanted to rape somebody, and your daughter just happened to be coming out of her condo that day. It's not personal. So don't think that I picked out your daughter for any particular reason. So that's as far as you're going to get with a psychopath. For the family, it's extremely personal. That's my daughter. That's the girl. The baby that I had, and I raised her, and she was having a happy life, and she was going to have a further happy life, and we were going to have grandkids together, and we were going to have all this. It was very personal to me. You piece of garbage. Well, it wasn't personal to me. But that is the truth, which is why I say stop wasting your time trying to talk to psychopathic killers and asking why they did it. They did it because it was fun. And you're not going to get anywhere with them. And if they do tell you anything, they're just lying. Let's see. Let's see. In an interview with another woman that lived there, and even after the murder, she saw evidence of a male had been coming into her place. She even changed the locks, but management made them change back. Again, don't know. Unless I have that in writing through the police reports, I honestly don't know. And one of the things I always talk about is, by the time something like this gets big, you get a lot of people saying a lot of things. They may be telling the truth, but we just never know the accuracy of anything. And so don't go on the internet and go berserk and say, oh, I heard this happened. I heard the management did this. We don't know. We honestly do not have a clue. Okay, listen. It seems only beautiful women get abducted. I am safe. And not always true, but more true than not. Now, people don't like to admit that either. I always joke about that. I said, the ideal girl is a trophy in the mind of the killer, that she's pretty, she's petite, she's easy to manage, she's a trophy. On the other hand, sometimes you can't get the trophy, and you'll take whatever comes along after that trophy. Oh, dang it. She got in her car. Oh, look, here comes one. She ain't so pretty, but I can work with it. It's kind of like the end of the night at the bar. You start out wanting her, at 8 o'clock at night, and by 4 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock when it's closing time, and you can't get him, you'll take that 65-year-old woman at the end of the bar with a scar on her face. Anyway, that's also reality. But heavy women don't get abducted. That is 100% the truth. Almost all women who get abducted are thin. When you see a heavy woman getting abducted, that usually means that it's a boyfriend, husband, somebody who knows her for some reason. She's being killed for some personal reason. Serial killers don't waste their time with fat women because, and I pointed out over and over again, because they're not trophies in their mind. 2, they're hard to pull the pants off of. And 3, they don't fit in your trunk unless you have a big car. It's like, it's the truth. Just the way it is. Eat lots of cake. Eat lots of cake and you're much more safe. Ah, Lord. This is a good point. Thank you, Sarah. No need, per se, for 2 people to do the job. That is usually correct. Psychopaths don't usually get along with other psychopaths. That is also true. They're selfish sons of bitches. Yes, this is true. Most psychopaths, serial killer types, rarely have somebody that they work with because they're annoying and people don't want to get involved with them. You'll see, only difference you'll see is you will have serial killer pairs, serial killer duos. Usually it's like a set of cousins. And one is a stronger one, and one is the weaker one. Then you'll get a duo. You'll get male female occasionally, like Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka, where it's both psychos, but because one is male, one is female, it seemed to work out. The majority of the time, that is not true. Psychopaths sometimes do work together in cartel situations, mafia, and you wonder how these psychopaths can do that, because you got psychopath number 1, which is the head of the cartel, the Don, right? And then you got people who work under him. Well, what he does is that, like Pablo Escobar, he managed people under him very well, and he's a total psychopath, but he was a smart psychopath. And what he did was he would be good to the people who did what he wanted. And those people who were willing to, it's kind of it's a male pack, dog pack type of thing. They will do bad things for the leader, and they'll be psychopathic themselves because they want what they want, and they like what they're doing, and they want what they're going to get. As long as they don't if they screw over in any small way, the leader, the Don, Pablo Escobar, they're going to be dead. They'll be dead in a heartbeat. He'll kill them just like that. So, but they, compared to their lives in general, when they're growing up and they're poor, poverty struck, and they think it's cool to be involved in drug gangs and get to have a gun and all this kind of thing. They already got that psychopathic thing going. They're willing to follow a leader. We see this is also true in when you have cases where you've got, in certain countries, you have certain large groups that commit terrorism things. You got head of the terrorist group, and then you got people who are willing to go in with a terrorist group. And why are they willing to do that? Well, maybe it's because their life sucks. Maybe they live in a sand pit and they got no hope for work, and their lives are already a mess. Sometimes they live in a certain area, and like for example, in the Congo, they got a lot of Congolese small children who are very psychopathic and already carrying weapons at the age of 6 and 7 and 8. But their lives suck, and the only hope they see is within, to have the excitement and thrills, is to be within a terrorist group or to be within a drug cartel. Even here in the United States, you have just gangs, gangs, and to be in the gang is better than going to school and working at McDonald's. So you're still psychopathic, and you're willing to follow the psychopathic lead, but usually when you come down to serial homicides, 90%, 99%, maybe, I don't know. I don't have percentages. I'm making it up. The majority will be single serial killers, and just a rare few that are duos. Let's see. Any other comments here before I close out for tonight? Lots of amusing comments I'm not going to put up. But that's why people call it the chat room, so they can chat with each other and say some fun things. That's an interesting point. Okay. Alana says, restaurants and grocery stores do get their dumpsters pick up every day if they're busy. And Mama Mia's was a very busy restaurant. Her body could have been put within a few hours. That's a good comment. I didn't even go with the dumpster issue. Thank you. It does slip my mind completely. Yes, dumpsters are a popular place to put people, especially in the middle of the day. Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing it up. Sometimes what you need is a team of minds together to come up with all the different things that one person is going to forget. And so, yes, so dumpsters are a very useful place. And I don't know that they checked with the, I don't know what they did with the landfills. I just realized I never read anything about the landfills. Everybody's looking in the freaking lakes. Maybe she wasn't ever in the lake, because putting a person in a lake, you have to weight them down. You got to make sure they're not right at the shore. There's reasons it's difficult to dump bodies in lakes, even with alligators. But dumpsters are quite easy, and it is entirely possible that if she was in a dumpster and it was just never looked at, and she went straight to the landfill, that's why she's never been found. Thank you for bringing that up. I don't know why I didn't even. It's funny because when I'm reading all the information here, they never mention the word landfill or dumpsters, which is so odd. I think that's why I completely just blew over my head, because so many cases I have talked about the landfills, and you know that they're digging up landfills like crazy, trying to find bodies. I like it. Thank you for bringing that out. Yes, maybe it was during the day. Maybe just dumped her in a dumpster and went on to work. And for whatever reasons, because 2 days passed, her body was taken out and thrown in a landfill. And I just think it's odd that no one's mentioning that. Did the police look in the landfills? I just find that really weird. I don't know what's happening in Florida and Orlando area. I say, is it just because of so many lakes nobody thought about landfills? Thank you. That was excellent. I am appreciative of you bringing that up. I should have brought it up, but I completely blanked on that myself. Fantastic work. That's another good profile there. Thank you very much. But yeah, I wonder now. Now I want to go. Now I want to know about the dang landfill. Did they even freaking look at the landfills? Well, that's a lot of work for pizza places. No, I doubt that. But could she have gone to a pizza place that was a mile away? Very possible. He could have seen her in there. I looked at the pictures of their pizza, and it didn't look bad. I'm a kind of a pizza snob, and I like pizza in Naples, Italy, and I like pizza in New York, and every place else I think is pretty much garbage. So when people say we have New York pizza, I never believed them. So I've rarely had good pizza outside of New York and Naples, but their pizza did look like it had some hope from the pictures I saw. But these are recent pictures. I don't know what there was like, but I don't know. Are they an Italian family who is making good pizzas and they're hiring people to, do the work there? Did she come in and get pizzas there? That's a good point. Another good point. So, if I had access to the files, would I note that that was a habit of hers? I don't know, because it's not that far away. It's straight down the road. And if it was a popular place, it's right on the corner. Maybe that's where she went to get pizza. Yeah, don't know. That would be interesting. Sometimes the thing too is that if I were looking at this case for the police, and let's say I had a good reason to look at the pizza place, does that mean I don't look at the condo? No. I might say, okay, I'm seeing two possibilities here. I want you to look down two avenues. One is a pizza guy, just because of the location of where the car is found, and the guy's wearing white, and she might have gotten pizza there. This is good reasons to look there. Two, the condo where she's at, because obviously there's a lot of guys around the condo who could grab her too. And they also can be wearing white. So I would look at these two avenues. And profiling is not about absolutism. It's not like, well, Pat Brown has decided it's the guy that worked at the pizza place, so we don't have to look anyplace else. That's just arrogant and egotistical. No. What you do when you analyze is look at different avenues. You don't want to waste your time looking at ridiculous avenues, which is why I say I don't personally, from outside the investigation, I don't see that that it happened at night. I don't see that anybody she knew did this crime. Now, if I were brought in to analyze the case, unlike Scotland Yard with the Madeleine McCann case, I would not come in with a remit that says, I will not look at anybody who knows her. I'll only look at strangers. I would never do that. I would come in and say, okay, I'm coming in from the beginning. I'm going to look through everything and see what I can learn from that. And even though, yes, I do have a couple ideas to begin with, my two favorite avenues, doesn't mean that I won't accept another avenue. And if I start examining things and say, holy crap, I got to look at this guy. He does know her. What? I didn't realize this about the case, because I don't have the case in front of me. I don't have all the details. So I could change my mind. And it's okay to change your mind. If you're an investigator, it's okay to change your mind. You're working on a case, and you find out something you did not know, new evidence comes in, you're going to change your mind. And the whole point is that in the end, you can have all the theories, and all the theories are okay to have. And you keep exploring those theories, taking the best avenues so you don't waste too much time. And then you find, hopefully at some point, you find solid evidence to support one of those theories. When you get the solid evidence, that's when you got probable cause. That's when you make the arrest. That's when you take the person to prosecution. But only within. So your theory, you don't know which theory is going to end up being the right theory and which one's going to end up finding the evidence. The only idea is that you want to go down the best avenues so that you don't waste your time when you could be focused in on where you can get that evidence. So that's the whole point. Investigative profiling is it's a process. It's not an end result. Yeah, she had been away from her apartment, but she apparently went away a lot. Oh, she'd also gone on a vacation in the Caribbean. So she'd been away, and then she was with her boyfriend, and then she came back. So she was a little erratic. However, I think outside of the vacation, she was there, most of the time, Monday through Friday, to go to her job. So, cake stays safe. Being 68 helps too. I could be thin and 68 and they'd still ignore me. Okay. He had a lot of hippos. Yeah, Pablo did like hippos. And now they've been breeding like crazy in Colombia, so they got a massive hippo problem. If you've never ever seen, go on Netflix and watch Pablo Escobar, El Señor. No. Oh shoot, I forgot the rest of the name of it. Pablo Escobar. Shoot, now I gotta look it up. It's there's Narcos that came out. They did it's a Pablo Escobar series that was done by America. It was just not good. Don't watch that one. Pablo Escobar. What's the name of it? Movies. Movie. So there was one that I just hated. There was let me find the name of it. For God's sakes, I'm blanking on the name. Come on, folks. El Patron del Mal. El Patron del Mal. That is the Colombian version. And the guy who plays Pablo Escobar, you would think he's Pablo Escobar. It's brilliant. It's one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. Pablo Escobar, El Patron del Mal. Go watch that one if you want to see something brilliant. The other version, which I can't remember the name now, find the name of that one now. Now maybe it's a Narcos version, but whatever other version they have of Pablo Escobar, don't watch it. Don't watch it. Watch the Colombian version. Fantastic. And you see how he operates. You see how he thinks. It's brilliant. But he did have hippos. Yes, he loved his hippos. Okay. I'll check a couple more comments and I'll close out. Don't police often pay more attention to young blonde female victims? Not saying this is okay. They do, only because the media runs with that. And also some of the reasons is, and this is a terrible thing, but true, is that it depends on the economic status of the victim. If the victim is part of a very poor community with a lot of crime, the police are already overwhelmed with the crime, and then if there's a high level of prostitution and drugs, the pressure to solve this crime, because a completely innocent, lovely girl who had her whole life ahead of you and a great life has gone disappeared or been murdered. If you're in a place where it becomes a media sensation immediately, the police are definitely going to be on it. But if you're overwhelmed with crime from a poor income area, then I'm not saying they don't try, but they've got a lot to work with and a lot more suspects. So it's one of these things where people like to point the fingers and throw blame and make it a racial issue, but it's not always that, although sometimes there are aspects of that because of the status of the victim and because of the media. The media will run with anything they think makes more money, which is sad but true. But if you've got a girl who's gone to college and is living an innocent life, and you've got another girl who is involved in prostitution and goes missing and has been doing drugs, she's going to get a lot more attention. And the other victim, white or black or Hispanic, is going to get less attention until you got a whole bunch of them. All of a sudden you got, wow, 6 girls have all been killed in that. And then it becomes a sensation because it's clearly a serial killer. So a lot of it's just the way, unfortunately, things work. But I don't know. It said, but the second part of your question is, why did they not investigate much for Jennifer? Did you see how big the files were? You don't get that huge amount of files and videos if they did nothing. I don't think it's not that they did nothing. I think, again, people outside, the family is always pissed off that not enough has been done. That's just, if it were my kid, I'd be pissed off too. No matter how much work they've been done. If you haven't solved the crime, you haven't done enough. It's the way you got, your heart is there. You want to know, and you think the police should work on this 24 hours a day and have 20 people working. And it's just, that's what a family does. But doesn't mean it's not true. They did investigate. As far as I know, they investigated. They have a lot of files. At a certain point, they gave up because they had nothing. They didn't have the guy. Whatever reasons, they didn't have the evidence. They didn't have a body. And they shelved it and said it's still open, which is what they always do. And they hope one point they'll be interviewing some guy and go, hey, I know who killed Jennifer Kesse. And they go, well, thank God. And then then the case it's not being reopened. They will just pull it off the shelf and they will investigate that. And so when they get some reasonable tip in, they will reinvestigate that. But the problem is when they don't get any tips in or anything useful, they're just going to leave it alone because they have, how many other cases they have to solve? A lot. So I don't know that they didn't do their job. They just stopped working on the case when it became essentially a cold case. And cold cases usually are, the Kesses wanted to believe that all cold cases can be just given over to the families. But most police departments are never going to have that done because A, they think it compromises the case. B, there's stuff in those files. And families sometimes, and internet people and PIs will start going after people who have nothing to do with anything. And then the police are going to be sued for giving the family people's names. That's why they're redacting like crazy. Because they're like, we can't say we talked to this person, then you're going to go after them when they didn't do anything. So it gets very complicated. It really does. I personally think it would be nice if there was an oversight method where after a certain number of years, then an oversight team could take over who were not going to go crazy and do things they shouldn't do. And this is essentially what the Florida Department of Law Enforcement is doing. They're doing a review. The only problem sometimes we have is that when another police agency does a review, they're buddies, so the families often think that they're just going to have each other's backs. They would like a completely independent group, like somebody like a profiler or some kind of PIs or whatever, some completely independent group. And as long as those people could be counted on not to, go wacko. And I've seen a lot of private investigators out there, I'm not saying this one, but I've seen them out there saying ridiculous things in the media once they get hold of anything, just ridiculous stuff, and not clarifying it or saying, hey, this may not be true, because that's what happens. And that's why police departments don't want to let the stuff go. And of course, I also don't want to have people see if they did a crappy job on something. They don't want that to get out to the media, because again, families think that police have to do a perfect job. And police aren't perfect any more than a doctor is perfect or a teacher is perfect. They do their best depending on their training, how much manpower they have, how much money they have, how many cases they have. They don't do a 100% perfect job. And so what they don't want is to be trashed in the media, and that politically kills them, because then the government goes after them, they start pulling their money, and it turns into a nightmare. And that's why the cases I've worked where I believe I have come up with reasonable avenues of investigation and even a suspect, those police departments have kept mum because they don't have the evidence to go to a trial. If that information goes out to the families, out to the media, then they're going to look bad, and they can end up having a whole lot of problems. People lose their jobs and they lose their money from the government. All kinds of horrible things happen. And that wouldn't be things that I want to happen to them. I understand where they're coming from. That's why a good portion of my cases, I've just shut up. The only reason I've ever spoken up was if they treat me bad, or I know a bunch of liars. I have a couple cases where I don't appreciate what they did, because not every police department and every detective is a great guy either. So the Superbikes case out of South Carolina, that Sheriff Wright is a liar. And you can check my thing, Profiler Pat Brown, Superbikes. I worked that case, and he is a liar. And the guy they claim did it, Tug Colehep, did not commit that crime. And so he libeled me and slandered me and all kinds of things. And I'm willing to speak up against him, because I will speak against law enforcement when I think they're crooked or corrupt. And most of the time, if it's just they're doing their best and it didn't work out as well, I'm going to shut up on that, because, hey, I've been wrong too. But almost never. Almost never. Oh, goodness. Superbikes video still blows my mind. Believe me, being on the side of, I worked that case and I know better, it's really hard to sometimes accept. People say, how do you accept when things like that happen? And they end up convicting a guy is not guilty, and not a damn thing you can do about it. And I don't feel bad for Tug Colehep. He's a serial killer, but he's not a mass murderer. He deserves to go to prison. I have no problem with the death penalty on that guy, but he's not the Superbikes killer. And I have evidence to prove it. And I have proof that the department lied about everything. So, and they stole $900 from me too, for my FOIA request that they never honored. So, but how do I feel? life is like that. We don't always get what we want. And sometimes we get, stabbed in the back, and you have to have a sense of humor, and you have to realize you're just doing what you can do, and you can't control the rest of the world and every person in it. So I've learned that, and I've learned how to go through life without getting all despondent over, that things didn't work out my way. So learn to pivot. Yay! Superbike is a shame for the victims' families. They deserve justice. Well, they did, but they apparently were in on agreeing that they were all okay with the Todd Kohlhepp thing. I have never understood that, because they know, because I've given them the truth. They know that Todd Kohlhepp is lying. I don't understand why they accepted it. It just boggles my mind, but I just don't know. Go figure. Anyway, that's it for today. Interesting case. I mean, I've talked about the case way back when I was doing Nancy Grace. I think it was Jane Velez Mitchell was there that night, and but I didn't even know very much about the case, because when we did shows like Nancy Grace, they sent us over a couple of emails with like a few pages of information, and then we just roll onto the show and say stuff. So finally, I get to do more here. But even here, I'm limited. I don't have the whole files. I don't have huge amounts of time putting together an educational show as opposed to working on a case. And so, I miss stuff too, even doing these shows, or I think, wow, later on, I'm like, I wish I'd known that. So anyway, I'm glad you were all here. It's been fabulous having you here in the chat room. And again, if you're new to the channel and are still here after, oh my God, 2 hours and 30 minutes, please do subscribe to the channel. Check out my playlists. Put Profiler Pat Brown in your favorite case in the YouTube search engine and see if I have already talked about it. Join Patreon. Anything to help this channel survive, and me along with it. So anyway, thank you very much. Okay, I'm not going to comment on this. If he was wearing white clothing, he would have needed to change clothes. Good point. He might not have been wearing white clothing when it all happened, but changed into the white clothing in order to go to work any place that he was going to work at, whether it be at the condo or at the pizza shop or any place else. Good point. See, there's always one more thing, which is why the shows go on and on. Anyway, I'm going to stop now. I am going to stop. Now, this was fun, and thank you for being here. We'll be back with a hangout this week. I'm trying to remember what I'm doing this week. I'll send you the links. I can't remember now. Okay, so I'm doing the hangout either Wednesday or Thursday this week, and I will see all of you hopefully in the normal patron chat that we have usually Monday or Tuesday. And thank you for being here.